Well, good afternoon, council staff and those that are joining with us in person and virtually. It's Wednesday, April the 8th, 2026. For those of you within the walls of the council chamber, I would remind you to please ensure your communication devices are either shut off or placed on vibrate. I'd like to remind everyone that April is Volunteer Awareness Month, and in a community such as ours, volunteerism goes a long way, and we're successful because of our volunteers. And a shout out to each and every one of them, regardless of what organization you're with. We thank you for your service. This meeting will be streamed live and recorded for public viewing on YouTube. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, the Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, referred to as collectively as the Anishinaabe. Through the connection of the Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, the water, and the air, that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all of life, protecting the future for those generations to come. Council, I would remind you, if you have a pecuniary interest, to please declare it at the appropriate time. Before we begin our first delegation, I would share with those that are with us this evening, there have been some concerns that have been raised about this past weekend with the drainage that we've had and with the rains that we've experienced. We're going to be talking about that under new business. So everybody's aware that will be discussed at that time. But ask for your patience as we go through our agenda. It's a light one, so we should be able to move that along. We won't be keeping you here all night. So clerk, other than Mr. Collins, is there anything else on delegation?
Mr. Collins is the only delegation for this evening.
All right. Well, Mr. Collins, welcome. It's good to see you again. And the floor is now yours for your presentation, sir.
Well, good evening, and thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Us as residents are experiencing quite an issue with the sidewalks and the aprons, especially here on Main Street, 491, 489, where I reside, 487, where Larry is, and 487 and 485. So we wanted to come to Council and have a discussion, see what options are available to the homeowners, what options are available to the town. I know, Paul, you have had communications with both myself and Larry, so you'll be familiar with your communication that's in the deck as well.
So we're all aware, this is on Main Street to the east, correct?
Right, in the new subdivision.
Yeah.
Specifically, the 4 homes that were built by Van Moden, the builders.
Okay.
That is the 4 homes that we all occupy. So this is some of the conditions of the concrete. I took pictures of March of this year. You'll see that the concrete is deteriorating. This concrete was poured approximately 2 years ago. So the concrete definitely is not old. It hasn't been there for a whole lot of times. It's had 2 winters, one which has been extremely mild and one as we just come through that isn't as mild as last year was. So you'll see there's pot marks, you'll see there's scaling on this. It's really in bad shape. This is specifically the sidewalk that you'll find between 491, 489, 487, and 485. The aprons again are deteriorating, they're scaling. They're in really, really rough condition. This happens to be the apron at my house. And by looking at the picture, this is the best of the 3 aprons. So I didn't want to show you the worst picture, but you can imagine what it looks like if this is the best. So Paul, we reached out to Paul. He responded on August 13th with an email. He said the issue of poor quality concrete on Main Street first came to the town's attention in late last year, which would have been 2024. We moved in February of 2024 through a combination of routine inspections and complaints received from homeowners, myself including. I believe Larry also reached out to the town and to Paul. Upon investigation, it became clear that sections of concrete, particularly in driveway approaches and isolated sidewalk segments, were showing signs of premature deterioration. Again, these sidewalks are no more than 2 years old. When concrete begins to fail early in its lifespan, cracking, scaling, or crumbling, it is often the result of a few common problems. Lack of entrained air. Entrained air is a key component of durable concrete in our climate, as it allows the concrete to better withstand the freeze-thaw cycles. Without adequate air content, the concrete becomes more susceptible to cracking and surface damage during colder months. So, according to the Weather Network, the winter of 2023-24 in southwestern Ontario was one of the warmest on records, with temperatures 5.2 degrees Celsius above the 1961 to 1990 average. So that didn't seem to be the cold weather occurring that first year that the concrete was laid. Temperatures soared into the double digits on February 9th, 2024. This unusually warm winter was evident when temperatures soared again into double digits on February 9th, further reinforcing the season's record-setting warmth. When we moved in on February 22nd of 2024, the movers wore t-shirts and shorts, and we were out there with no winter jacket. It was an extremely warm day. High water to cement ratio. Concrete that is mixed or finished with too much water becomes weaker and more prone to surface scaling, which you saw in the pictures, and cracking. This often happens when water is added to make the concrete easier to pour during finishing, especially in smaller, less controlled pours. So Paul, very much appreciating your feedback on why you believe the concrete is in the position that it is today. Now, here's where it gets interesting. For larger pours, such as during initial installation of curbs or placement of extensive sidewalk sections, the town requires rigorous quality control. This includes on-site testing of concrete samples to verify that the slump or workability and air entailment at the time of the pour. Additional test cylinders are collected and cured under controlled conditions to confirm the comprehensive strength of the concrete at the 7 and 28 day after placement. But when builders are installing smaller quantities of concrete, such as private driveway approaches or short sections of sidewalk in front of individual homes, these formal tests are not taken. So again, the township of Plympton-Wyoming, through their policy, has stated that on smaller pours, their quality control steps aren't adhered to. In fact, there was no quality control that occurred with the pouring. It is not practical to implement full-scale quality control measures for such small volumes, especially when the work is not being directly contracted by the town. As a result of the deterioration identified, the town will move forward with replacing the affected sections of the municipal sidewalks on Main Street. In fact, last September, August issue, they came out, they marked the sidewalks. We all thought at that point that they were actually going to fix them. I know, Mary, you were kind enough to come over during that frame because I was concerned that the marking stopped before my property. And we both agreed that the sidewalk was in bad shape as next to us. And you assured me at that time it was probably just a mistake and that whole section would be done. So here we are, the town saying we're going to repair the sidewalk, but responsibility for repairing or replacing failed driveway approaches, however, will rest with the property owner. Homeowners may wish to engage the builder if the work has recently completed and is still under warranty. We have the home warranty program, so that would be a great place to start. Their response is, you don't own it, the town owns it, so it's not covered under your home warranty program. This policy is in line with the town's current street bylaw, which outlines maintenance responsibilities for private access. And the key words here is maintenance responsibilities. So we have to determine, is this really a maintenance responsibility, or was it a defect in the manufacturing that the town accepted and is now trying to push it back to the homeowner? While it is regrettable that such failures occur, they are not uncommon and are becoming more challenging to manage due to the recent consolidation of concrete suppliers in Lambton County. So again, the township saying it's your responsibility, homeowner, because we didn't do any quality control on the work, but we also knew that the contractors or the quality was bad, but again, we did nothing about it. Fewer suppliers means less competition, and at times variability in products and services, especially for small-scale residential projects. So let's have a look at the facts and the data. The town was aware of issues with concrete suppliers in Lambton County and the poor quality of service. Paul mentions it in his email. Because of cost constraints, formal tests of concrete were not conducted for smaller pours, again, under the total control of the town of Plympton-Wyoming. No quality control or inspection of the sidewalks or driveways approaches were conducted by the town during the concrete pouring. Remember that for a lot of us homeowners, this occurred before we even had a vision of moving here or had a vision of even buying a house here. All these decisions were made without our consent and without our knowledge. Risk management, mitigation. This is really what it falls down to. It falls down to risk management. The risk management mitigation that the town of Plympton-Wyoming are going to do for these sidewalks. I have over 30 years of project management experience. I worked at one of the largest banks in Toronto and one of the largest insurance companies in London. I manage projects anywhere from $100,000 to $5 million. I'm a college professor for over 20 years in both Toronto and London. I specialize in project management with the focus on risk management at the college in London. I taught computer programming. I'm going to age myself. COBOL. A lot of you younger folks probably have no idea what COBOL is, but COBOL. And support at one of the largest colleges in Toronto. So I have the experience in large projects and specifically risk management. So this is a risk management strategy. There's 4 different strategies one can take when dealing with risk. Risk acceptance. This strategy involves acknowledging the existence of a risk and deciding to accept it without taking any action to mitigate it. This is often used when the cost of mitigation is higher than the potential impact of the risk. The town chose for the sidewalks to accept risk acceptance. Basically said, if a risk occurs, if it's bad, we'll fix it. And if it isn't, well, we lucked out. Accepting the risk by doing nothing to mitigate it. If the sidewalk failed, the town would report the affected areas, in which case we know they will hopefully get around to pouring the affected areas. For the driveway approaches, the town did not use this strategy. Risk avoidance. Risk avoidance entails changing plans or processes to eliminate the risk. This typically is the most proactive approach, but can also be the costliest. The strategy was not used. The strategy was not used for either large pours or the smaller sidewalk or driveway approaches. Risk limitation or risk reduction mitigation. This strategy aims to reduce the likelihood of impact of a risk through proactive measures. It often involves implementing controls and safety measures to minimize exposure to the risk. The town uses this risk strategy for their larger pours. They said that by testing the concrete, they're mitigating. The word here is mitigating. They're not eliminating it, but they're trying to reduce it, the likelihood of the risk occurring. This strategy is not used for smaller pours such as sidewalks or driveways. And risk transferring. Risk transferring involves shifting responsibility for a risk to a third party, often through contracts or insurance. While the risk remains, the financial burden is transferred to another entity. We all have household insurance. We all have car insurance. This is a case of risk transferring. This appears to be the strategy that the town has taken for the driveway approaches, to transfer that risk to the homeowner. So although we own it, being the town, we own those approaches, if anything happens to them, it's the homeowner's responsibility. This policy is in line with the current street bylaw, which outlines maintenance responsibilities for private access. Now, again, the word here is maintenance. Maintenance means the process of preserving a condition or situation of the state of being preserved, the process of keeping something in good condition. Important word, because we'll see that those aprons and sidewalks were never really in good condition. So a bylaw that states that we have to maintain them in good condition is great, but they were not in good condition when we took them over. In risk transfer, both the parties must agree to shift the risk. This agreement can be through contracts, again, insurance policies, or legally binding agreements, bylaws. In this case, the risk tolerance was made without the purchaser's agreement. In fact, we hadn't even owned the property. And I'll show you a picture of my property before we even owned it, which will show deterioration occurring before we even bought it. This was a risk transfer between the town and the builder, not the town and the homeowners. The issue occurred before the homeowners entered into a purchase agreement or occupancy of the property. This issue was not a maintenance issue, but a defect in workmanship that only the builder and the town could detect and correct. So what has the homeowners done? Well, we've written letters. We reached out. We reached out to Paul. The mayor and I have had some discussions. We reached out on our 1-year Terrion warranty. Terrion responded that the driveway approaches are not part of the homeowner's property and are not covered by the Terrion new homeowners policy. We're out of luck there. The builder also notes that this is not part of the property and that the damage was caused by salt used by the town during normal winter snow removal activities. So this is our house, 489 Main Street. Prior to the first winter, this was the real estate listing in the summer of 2023. The sidewalk was poured, the driveways were poured. The first time this picture was taken for listing. And you can hardly see it where I put a square. So let's look at what's in the square. What do you see? You already see the sidewalk deteriorating. Probably within months of being poured and before any winter and any salt was ever laid on that sidewalk. This was virgin sidewalk, had never seen salt, and it's already deteriorating. You can see it deteriorating on the left-hand side of the picture. So at that point, before I bought my house, probably before Larry bought his house, you're already seeing deterioration in the sidewalk. So next steps. The affected homeowners are requesting the town repair both the sidewalk and the driveway approaches this spring. You can't have two different approaches for it. You either fix the sidewalk and the approach, or you don't fix either. But you can't say, well, the sidewalk we're going to fix and the approach is, well, yeah, but no. Sidewalks at 487, 485 were marked like last summer, but no work was done on them. In fact, the markings are gone now. They've worn off. The sidewalk at 49 was in approximately the same condition and was not marked for repair. At a late summer on-site meeting, I had the privilege of the mayor coming over to visit. He had a look at the sidewalk, and we both agreed that our sidewalk is in at least as bad condition as the ones that were being marked. We want all costs associated with the repairs should be directed by the town to the builder. The builder is still building out there, folks. They're still part of your township. You can reach out to them. You have legal pull to them. They subcontract all 4 of these homes, sidewalks and driveway approaches. The builder is still building the subdivision, so the town does have some leverage that could be applied to them for the driveway repairs and cost recovery. Unless the town is willing to say to its taxpayers, okay, we'll fix it. We know it's a builder problem, but you taxpayers can pay for it. You have to be proactive. You need to go after the builder for these repairs. The homeowner has no legal recourse against the builder, as the homeowner does not own that part of the property. It is owned by the town. So we have no legal standing. We take that builder to court, small claims court, and says, Judge, we want him to repair it. Judge is more likely to say to us, you have no legal standing. You do not own that part of the property. And just as important, this is not a maintenance issue, but a result of poor workmanship during the concrete pour. Thus, the bylaw is not an appropriate remedy to be used by the town. So another option is to go to the court. When the court rules that we have no legal standing, ask them to make a legal representation on the bylaw. Is it truly maintenance in this case? Safety issues. Scaling sidewalks are a safety issue. It poses significant hazards for pedestrians, increasing the risk of accidents and injury. These are not my words. These are from the National Association of Concrete. Exposure of coarse aggregate and the loss of surface mortar can result in uneven surfaces, which are particularly dangerous for elderly individuals and those with mobility aids. And I'll tell you that 20% of the folks, at least who live in our area, myself included, are over 60, 65. So we do have mobility issues. So how much would it cost for the town to complete the repairs? A very interesting public request when the town gets around to repairing it, because hey, folks, it is an election year. I'd like to know how our money is being spent. And why is the town not taking steps to recover this from the development company and the builders? You're in a much better position than us as homeowners to recover that money. They're still building in Plympton-Wyoming. In fact, they're still building in the Ratcliffe development where we live. By having the taxpayers pay for obvious defects made by the builders on the public land. So one last comment. I was approached by a gentleman who said, yes, we poured 7 driveways that day. It was very fast and it was very wet. I'll leave that as a closing statement. Questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Collins. I'm going to go to Mr. De Silva and then we'll go for questions then. Okay, Mr. De Silva.
Your worship, I apologize in advance. I don't have much of a voice. I appreciate your presentation. I just want to kind of clarify a few things. So when it comes down to capital projects, that's projects that the town is undertaking on our own. And a very good example is the work done on Confed over the last several years. We were able to pour all of those curbs and all of that sidewalk at one time. Quality control testing makes a lot of sense in that regard because quality control testing costs thousands of dollars to do. On small pours, like a driveway or a small section of sidewalk, you could be doubling your costs just on doing quality control testing. That doesn't mean we don't inspect it. We do inspect it. Developments are a little bit different. Developments are undertaken by a developer, they're supervised by a consultant, and then the town acts as owner who will eventually take control of those assets. Curbs that are poured in new developments are definitely tested. Large pieces of sidewalk in new developments are definitely tested. What the problem is in new developments where houses aren't going up very fast, you don't want to put all of that sidewalk in at one time. Builder goes in, builds a house, destroys the sidewalk. So we leave those pieces of sidewalk out. And the builders, as they're building, will put the driveways and the sidewalk in. So in 98% of cases or 99% of cases, this is not normally a problem. The fact that anybody who goes to pour a driveway tomorrow is not having a geotechnical consultant come out and test the concrete. They do that at the concrete plant as well. Just made a couple of notes here. Not doing quality control testing is not an admission that the concrete is poor. And air and treatment adds durability that withstands the elements. It's not just about cold. It's also about salt and heat and expansion and contraction. That's what air and treatment does. So I guess what I'm trying to say is even if it was tested, this doesn't necessarily help with the issue, because if someone goes in there and they finishes the concrete with additional water, we could have testing that says the concrete's perfect, but the workmanship isn't great. So I went back in the records. I checked for the deficiencies before we assumed that subdivision. So that subdivision was assumed in late 2023. We did an inspection prior, and it did not come up with any deficiencies on the sidewalk. Now, in terms of your driveway, that was constructed by your builder. The town does not maintain or replace driveways, even if they're on the road allowance. You can imagine what that would cost. So your driveway serves your property. If it wasn't there, it would be grass. So that's why the bylaw states that the homeowner is responsible for their access, their driveway, even if it's on the road allowance.
So as the homeowners are saying, though, you have a bylaw that says we are responsible for maintaining it. But how can we maintain something that was defective in the first place? And that picture that I showed, we went into that house, we said in 2023, you assumed it, that would have been probably September 2023's picture. So depending on your timing, and it was already deteriorating. So sorry, I doubt that it deteriorated over a month or a month and a half before you guys came out and seeing it. But why as homeowners are we responsible for fixing something that we had no control in, that the town itself, and I agree, you said everything, what you said in your letter. For large pours, perfectly makes sense. But for small pours, we'll just wait and see. The fact that you waited and saw that the sidewalk deteriorated so bad and you're willing to fix it, but you're not willing to fix the aprons of the homeowners makes no sense to the homeowners. And you just have a bylaw that says we're responsible for maintaining it. So more than willing to, to take that bylaw and possibly get a second opinion on the legality of it in this particular case. Because how can we maintain something that was defective in the first place? That was defective when we moved in, or was defective right after we moved in? So it's really one of two cases. It was truly defective when it was poured, or it's the city's salt that's destroying it. Either way, something is causing that concrete to fail prematurely. And we're not talking a year or two prematurely. We're talking probably 10 years prematurely. If you walk down from Broadway down Main Street to Toronto, you'll see very little deterioration in the sidewalks. And I'm sure those sidewalks were poured much, much earlier than the sidewalks in that new subdivision. And they're showing very little wear and tear. So there's definitely something that has occurred there. And while you may not want, or you may not want to do rigorous quality control, there's at least an assumption that some oversight was done with the building of those sidewalks.
Silva, your response, please?
Yep, through your worship. You make some valid points, but I will ask the question, how can a municipality assume responsibility of everyone's driveway? So somebody down the road from you decides they're going to replace their driveway one of these days, and they hire a competent contractor to do it, and it doesn't work out in poor quality. Just if I can finish.
Yeah, no problem.
Poor quality. How can the town then be responsible for that? And I'll even go one step further, and I'll say, let's say a subdivision gets built and the town assumes it, and there's still lots that are available, and the sidewalks got poured, and there's lots available, and somebody goes in there and they says, I want to build a house here, and then the builder pours the driveway. How can the town then 5 years down the road, for example, be responsible for the quality of that concrete?
You make an excellent point, but the major difference in your rationale of me going out and getting a contract builder to come in and do my driveway, I have full control on who I pick, when I pay them, and any warranty. In this case, you through the builder who you had the relationship with poured that concrete, it was faulty. So it's apples and oranges. In one case, we have full control over who we pick and who we pay. On this side, we had no control. We had not even purchased the home at that point. So there's total difference in the two scenarios that you mentioned.
Silva, response?
Just one follow-up through your worship. I mean, we don't necessarily have a relationship with the builder. There are many builders who have a relationship with the developer, of course, because they're the ones that are doing the work. They then sell lots to builders. In this case, I believe the builder and the developer might be the same entity, but in other cases, it's not. A builder goes and purchases a lot from a developer, and then we don't really have a relationship with that builder per se.
So that subdivision is still being built. There's houses still occurring. So you must still have a relationship either with the builder or with Ratcliffe, the developer. And should be reaching out to them saying, hey, what's going on with the approaches? What's going on with the sidewalks? Because as a town, as a town and as council, are you just willing to accept the fact that it's going to cost X number of dollars to fix all those sidewalks? And, oh, well, the taxpayers will pay it. Because that's what's going to turn out to be. It's not coming out of your pockets. It's coming out of all of our pockets through our taxes. And where should it be coming? It should be coming from the developer and the builder. They're still here. They're still building. They're still actively involved in that development. Well, that's what we're asking for the town to reach out to Ratcliffe, to reach out to the builder, because we've tried and got no response. Reach out to them and say, do something. I would assume that you still have some legal recourse against the developers there.
Silva, have we reached out to Mr. Ratcliffe? Or
Through your worship, not in this case. No, we don't have, phase 1 of that subdivision has been fully assumed. Securities have been released. Phase 2, we have assumed, but we still have some minor securities. I think it's Thames Street still has a sidewalk to be installed. So we're holding money back there because it hasn't been done yet.
And the builders that are still building?
Builders are still building, yes.
So they are still paying property tax? So there is some sort of recourse do you not have to them?
Mr. Sabansky?
I'm going to caution this conversation further. Without an active building permit on your specific property where the deficiency occurred, without an active subdivision agreement involving your property where the deficiency occurred, we do not have easy access through agreement legal recourses. The only legal recourse we would have is through the court system, provided we could show appropriate evidence that we have legal actions.
So you,
So,
right.
without getting into significant details, because we cannot discuss legal matters in front. Going even to small claims court is costly. So there has to be a balance, and we understand your frustration in that sense too. Because for you to take the builder to small claims court over the laneway would be costly too, and probably cost more than the concrete itself.
Well, you're talking $3,000 or $4,000 per.
Without getting into significant details, as it stands on the subject properties, because the subdivision agreement has been released, because the building permit has been released, we don't have legal recourse on that property. To try to apply it to another property would put us in a legally precarious position and would not likely stand up. So again, not getting into details because that we're wandering into illegal, which I cannot talk openly about.
So again, as homeowners, that is our approach. We're asking the town to relook at it, relook at what it would cost to do the approaches. Elections are coming up, and it will, I promise you, be brought up at every candidate's meeting. And every time we meet a candidate is why taxpayers' money is being spent for a defect that the town, through a letter that Paul wrote, knew that the pour of concrete was poor, that the companies doing it had poor quality in many, many cases. And Paul, you're shaking your head. You wrote the email where you cautioned us and told us, be very careful on who you select to do the concrete because it's poor. The companies out there are poor. It's poor quality. And in this particular case, while I recognize it would not be cost efficient to do rigorous quality control, I've shown you a picture of the house probably in the summer of 2024, 2023, where the sidewalk is deteriorating. Everyone knew about it at that point. But thank you for the time. I'm sure we'll be seeing each one of you during election time, and we'll be having this discussion yet again.
Well, I think, Collins, before you get into that mode, I think there's room for discussion, okay? So please do not use that tone here.
We've been more than willing to discuss this matter. We have multiple letters.
How about we continue that mode, okay, John? We're gonna talk as big people, okay?
No problem.
So, Council, are you comfortable if we ask staff to bring back a discussion point when we talk a little further on this?
Absolutely.
Yes, Councillor?
Could I make some ask if some things could be included in that? Specifics?
Relating to which?
So, the period between a builder and when it gets transferred from to the town, because at that point the builder is the owner. And did any of the development requirements require a driveway? And did it require it to be concrete as a driveway approach?
An answer for Ms.
Yeah, through your worship, so the subdivision agreement does deal with driveway entrances. And they could choose a hard surface like concrete or asphalt. So it's most do concrete is a superior product in terms of durability and longevity, so they will generally select concrete.
So it's their choice.
It's their choice.
So it's not a requirement. And so we own the approach, just like a boulevard with grass. We're maintaining those approaches in the boulevards.
Correct.
I guess is the reason why that bylaw is stated the way it is.
Correct, and through your worship, I did a lot of research on this, and I could not find one other municipality that did not have a bylaw that stated exactly this. I couldn't.
Every municipality does. I lived in Toronto, I lived in London, but we're, as homeowners, we're saying, and I respect what you're saying, this was not a maintenance issue though, this was a defect issue. So if it had, if in 10 years we had come to you and said, hey, our driveway's cracking, you guys should probably fix that. Totally acceptable, say, yeah, right. But this was a quality control issue
And I-
before the homeowners ever assumed.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that there is a risk involved in buying a property. There could have been other things wrong too. So I do appreciate what you're saying and I empathize. I did drive by, I looked at it and it does look terrible. It sticks out. I do see a lot of other concrete on that street that looks perfectly fine as well. So I agree, we can't really blame it on. But it's just, where is the onus line on that? And I can appreciate public sidewalks are different from a driveway approach. Because public utilizes those sidewalks. So it's a public infrastructure versus a boulevard use, like putting grass down and having the responsibility to cut it. So that's kind of where I'm just trying to understand all these different things, if that could come back to us.
And the other point I would make, we talked about the grass area that the homeowner is responsible for. Then why did the city come and replace the tree that broke on that area? Why in that time they didn't say, well, you're responsible for it? Different scenarios here.
Councillor Vaizey, anything from you?
No. I was gonna ask about the deposit, if there was any way to go after that. Is there a way to restrict them from doing the small pours? Making them do them all at once? You know what I mean? Because you do see it where there'll be one house all by itself, they'll do the sidewalk in front of it, and then nothing until the next house is built. So if we restrict it to, leave it out until, whatever you determine a large pour, and make them do the testing on it. Because it would solve a lot of this.
Mr. Silva?
Through your worship, the thing that concerns me about that is the coordination that it would take between multiple builders to try to accomplish that. Or let's say this house gets built, this lot doesn't, and then the lot next to it gets built. Well, that gap could stay there for a very, very long time. So I think it is a coordination issue. And what we've started doing in Arrow Woods, for example, was there's a large stretch of sidewalk that didn't get completed when we assumed that subdivision because the houses weren't built. But what we said to the developer was, we'll retain this money for 2 years. And if those houses aren't built within those 2 years, then, people need connectivity, pedestrians need connectivity. These neighborhoods, they count on that. So within 2 years, we said, well, we're gonna make you put the sidewalk in at that time. So that's another thing that we're kind of doing to control that. But to your point, Councillor Vaizey, I don't see an opportunity there. Depending on if you're working with the same builder for 5, 6 houses in a row and they were building them all at the same time, absolutely, you can do it then. But when you're working with multiple builders and, build this house this year and then 5 years down the road, build the next, that's more difficult.
So basically, you see that on Ketter Way today as you're walking along the sidewalk, all of a sudden there's no sidewalk.
Well, I did my laneway 10 years ago, exactly the same thing happened. I put it in, I called the cement guy, he come out and looked at it, blamed it on me and said, take me to court. So the laneway is still there. You can still go look at it. It looks like crap. It did it within 2 winters. And it was gonna cost me 10 grand to go get 6 grand worth of concrete. So I'm in the same, like I can say, I agree, it was 100%, it was crap cement. And the guys that put it in had been doing it for 25 years, so it's not like I did. It's not like I'm out there.
Sure, if I asked you which company, it would probably be the same one who poured these ones.
Both of you?
Yeah, they're out of business. So.
These ones aren't.
Yeah, I had a question with the stretch of sidewalk, but I guess I also have, I know especially with entrance aprons, like in the more rural parts of town, you'll see a lot of them are gravel because of year of had to tear it up for drainage or something. Put back as gravel, having to pay for repaving. So I understand that there's a lot of nuances with those approaches. But my question is, despite those nuances, when we do look at assuming a subdivision and we do those quality assurance checks for those sidewalks, are there securities on the, like, are those aprons part of those securities we keep for sidewalks?
Mr. Silva?
Yeah, so through your worship, the aprons themselves, no, the sidewalks are, they're identified right in the subdivision agreement. And I'll leave you with this. If anybody knows where Waterside Estates development is, it's on Fleming. You'll notice that last year they paved the top lift of asphalt there. It was tested. We were unhappy with it and $100,000 worth of asphalt came out. So this is not a matter of we're afraid to impose this on developers. It's a matter of we just simply did not catch this one in our deficiency check before assumption. So I just wanted to leave it there.
Was that?
And then my other thing was, of course, not getting into the legal stuff. Regardless, I don't see a path forward, even if we you take the legal route and discuss that and figure that out, the sidewalks still have to be replaced. So it's kind of stuck between a hard place right now because the sidewalks have to be replaced, but then we're gonna have to go talk legal stuff behind the scenes anyway. So it's gonna look messy no matter what we do here, because the sidewalk, if the sidewalks needs to be replaced, sidewalk needs to be replaced, and then we'll have to figure out the course of action afterwards. So I guess my question there is just if it was marked out for those sidewalks to be replaced, regardless of legal action or figuring out how to pay for it, is that still being spring?
Yes, through your worship, that is still being done. Regrettably, we did not get to it last year. We do have a major reconstruction project happening on Thames, Niagara, and a portion of Maine this year. So our idea is just that when we're doing the sidewalks, then we'll do this.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Vacy.
Yeah, just to follow up, I just thought of it. So you said there's other houses to be built yet. How do we've already assumed the subdivision. So now they put the sidewalk in now. Do we have any recourse to if that's crap? They're doing the little piece.
Your worship, we have a letter of credit still for that outstanding sidewalk. So if we're not happy with it, we won't give them the money back.
And apply that to any of this.
No, it's on a separate phase.
That's all, thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
No, I have nothing more to say than what.
Van Clavin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is obviously very unfortunate. It's a bummer when you buy new property and it's effective issues. I don't know if any of that was used in negotiations when you purchased the home, if that was mentioned through the realtor or anything like that.
The apron was not deteriorating at the time. And we purchased the home in December with an offer, so it had not deteriorated. There was minor deterioration on the sidewalk that we noticed only when I pulled up the listing picture.
Okay. Often when we run into an issue, problem, a defective product, there is some compromise that takes place. Obviously, the sidewalk is going to be replaced. And the skirting is on the homeowner's dime, and all the way around, it's a bummer. Sucks, but this is how we often deal with an issue like that, is we share it. And we've got to do our part, you got to do your part. You know, that when it's done. And you go on, it becomes a blip in the radar in the future, and maybe on the next purchase, that's a question everybody asks. What's that sidewalk look like? And what's that apron look like? And it's certainly not the perfect answer. It's not, because it's an imperfect problem that we're dealing with. A few little things, someone said that it was poured fast and poured wet. We don't know who somebody is, so we really can't take that into account. It'd be neat if this didn't come up at every meet the candidates night, but it could. You're welcome to do that. I don't know whether it needs to, but.
Well, it will, because as many in the room know, I'm contemplating running for council, so I will make sure that it comes up at every council open forum as the way that taxpayers' money is being spent when we could possibly have a recourse against the builder.
Very good. I think that's Councillor Vacy mentioned he had an issue on his driveway. I thought it was a textured driveway. I thought you designed it that way. It looks like that. But obviously, urban longevity,
You can call
the
it.
longevity of it hasn't diminished. I mean, it's still seems to be supporting vehicles and deteriorating any further. And so nobody really wants to live with it, but I mean, that's certainly an option, I suppose.
So you mentioned compromise, and I'm sure the homeowners along there are more than willing to compromise in some manner. If that compromise is when you dig up the sidewalk, you dig up the approach, and we're responsible to have the approach done on our own. There's got to be some middle ground, 'cause right now we're over here. We have the builders saying it's the city's fault because it's the salt. We have the city saying, well, it's the builder's fault because they didn't do the concrete. And we're the homeowners going, but hey, help us out here because we weren't really involved when any of this happened. This is a brand new house. We're not assuming somebody else's issue.
Negotiations now, so that's.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbett, we'll wrap this up.
Thanks for your presentation, for sure. Very well put together. And, you know, I would feel exactly the same way that you guys do on, this is a brand new subdivision, for Pete's sakes. When we got contractors doing that kind of work, what's your foundation like?
Yeah, we won't mention that.
So what's the rest of your driveway like, not just the apron? So I would be very concerned too, and, there's no way it should be doing that after a 2-year period.
In fact, it's been a 1 year because we reported this.
I poured concrete to my new garage, I think, 6 or 7 years ago. No, I was just noticing last year it started chipping off, and I just noticed here the other day, the same thing going. But I remember when they poured my driveway, especially that one section, they worked it and they worked it and they worked it, trying to get it smooth. Worked too much water and sand up to the surface. I think that's what's happening, because I don't park my cars on that particular concrete, so there's no salt.
And we don't either. We park our car in the garage.
So I'm just gonna touch a little bit on this, you know, it can't be nice. We don't sit here trying to screw people out of money and stuff like that. So, you know, don't take that approach, because I gotta tell you, some of us here and most of us are pretty cheap when it comes to spending taxpayers' money. So, yeah, don't go there. I think I'm just gonna reinforce what the mayor said. Like, let us talk about this. This is the first that we're getting the presentation, so give us an opportunity here to have a discussion.
And that is why we brought it to the town.
Yeah.
Because we did go through Public Works, received the email probably a year ago. I know Larry has had discussions with Paul as well. We weren't satisfied with where we were getting it, so we wanted to bring it to the town council.
I don't think I've had those discussions about.
No, you haven't.
So this is the first that we've been presented with it. So give us an opportunity to talk.
And if you're free one weekend, I'll make you hot dogs and hamburgers. You can help me put the concrete.
Donate some money to the election, that's all.
Thank you very much for.
Yeah, anyway.
Larry has one question, then I'm gonna go to Mr. De Silva, then Mr. Sabansky has something.
Hi, guys. It's Larry Stasiak. I'm at 487 Main Street. Haven't had the pleasure of meeting you guys. But anyways, I appreciate what you're doing here. I appreciate the fact that you've listened to us. Okay. My main concern is that, just so that John knows, I was not speaking with Paul. It was Al Little. Al Little came down to my place March, took a look at things and said that it would be fixed. Okay, so that's where I'm coming from in that situation. What prompted that discussion with Al was the fact that one of the days in February, it was very cold. And that particular crunchy area was all frozen. And it was very difficult walking there. And I raised the point that it's a safety issue. My background is I was a resource manager for General Motors of Canada for 20 years. I looked after all the waste and all the recycling. And the number one thing was safety. Safety was our priority. So what I would like to ask council to do is to consider moving up the repair to at least the sidewalk, because the people that have walkers on our street, when they go by that area, they have to go out on the street. That's not safe. So safety is a priority. I really ask you guys to consider that. And I thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Larry. Mr. De Silva?
Your worship, if it pleases council, I'm happy to get that done as soon as possible. And I'm also happy to provide a report on the matter, an information report for additional discussion. No problem.
Sabansky?
Thank you. We've had some really good discussion tonight and there's been some talk of negotiation. We're kind of wandering into the point where it becomes a request for compensation, which is a legal matter. So I think the best way to address at this point, we've exhausted what we can talk about in an open aspect. We're wandering into legal. So I would suggest that the affected property owners, whether you do it from a mutually signed joint letter or as an individual, send a letter to myself, the attention of mayor and council, outlining what you feel that compromise would be reasonable. Council would review that enclosed and determine whether or not that is a reasonable compromise to mitigate the situation. Again, because we've exhausted what we could talk about in public, it is now becoming a bit of a legal matter. I think that is the best way forward to find a reasonable compromise between the parties.
So you comfortable with that?
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Thank you, Larry. Okay, council, let's go to item 5 on the agenda. Deputy Clerk, anything business arise? Yes.
Larry, where did you get your T-shirt?
Well, don't you? I don't know if anybody really.
From Farm Boy?
Farm Boy.
Is it, okay, thank you.
I didn't want everybody to really see that.
Deputy.
Don't give me no bull.
Oh, that's what it's.
What is it?
All right, Deputy Clerk, anything under 5.1? Anything been added?
No, there's no business arising at this time.
By that order, business closed. Item 6.1, I have a motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that the minutes be adopted by council and those confidential minutes of the closed sessions of council remain confidential, restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Would be the May 23rd, 2026, the regular planning council meeting minutes, the public planning meeting minutes, and the planning closed council meeting minutes, as well March 25th, 2026, the regular council meeting minutes and the regular closed council meeting minutes. Council, you've had an opportunity to review them. Any questions? All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, council, let's go to item 6.2. Moved by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Vaizey, that the minutes be adopted by council and those confidential minutes. The closed sessions remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. That would be the March 25th, 2026, the Jackson Drain Court of Revision meeting minutes. Council, you've had an opportunity to review them. Any questions? All those in favor? That is carried. All right, 6.3, Councillor's Report. Deputy.
We'll start with, well, I was gonna say something about the extravaganza out at Kimlaki, but you're better at it tonight because you had more to do with it. It was a really big success. Mr. Volvitt, anything to report?
Yeah, sorry I didn't get out to the Easter egg hunt, but I was kind of busy working out in the garage, so chance to go over and find any Easter eggs. We had a joint meeting of the Farm Safety Group and the Plympton Federation of Agriculture down at the ag buildings and talked a lot about safety, gave out CO detectors to everybody that came. So very well attended. Our fire chief was the guest speaker and did a very good job talking about the CAO bylaws where you have to have one on each floor now. And that's why we gave out, I think we gave out about 60 of them. We had an environmental committee meeting, but I'll let the chair talk about that. Other than that.
Mr. Van Claveren.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, had the privilege of attending the Good Roads Conference with our Mayor Gary Atkinson, Councillor Vaizey. And the theme throughout there was encouraging the province to work, finance, and communicate better with us as municipalities. I'm glad to discuss that further later if you like an update there. Last Thursday was the first Lambton County Historical Society event of the year in Ola Springs at the United Church, and our own here in Plympton-Wyoming is scheduled for Thursday, April 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Plympton-Wyoming Museum, to be followed at 8 o'clock at the community center for the famous cookies and coffee by our own deputy mayor.
Yeah, lost my head then.
That'll teach you.
Mr. Belgian,
Thank you. I will start with in the Environmental Services Committee meeting that Councilor Willett mentioned. As always, Mr. Silva had some pretty good reports at that committee. In particular, there was one on inflow and infiltration reduction program for the Kamlaki area specifically in relation to, because there was also a report in there about the March 6th and 7th rain event that we had there. And when you look at the charts, you can clearly tell that there's an infiltration issue happening with the systems underneath the ground. So that'll come to council. There's an inspection report suggestion that we'll discuss, I'm assuming, at the next council meeting. And there was also a report there from Paul about the recycling collection, the estimated costs associated with if the town tried to act as a broker for that recycling program. Because as we all know, the province changed that structure. So again, that's in there. It was received for information, but I recommend everyone reads it. It's just good to have. I'll also note the Easter event was a really big success. So kudos to that events committee. They put on another great event. I think they handed out between 250 and 300 candy bags to kids. So it was well attended. And I think the Optimist, if I remember correctly, was north of 500 hot dogs that they handed out. I think 400, 500 around there. And they were doing that by donation. So thanks to them as well.
yeah, expected to go down there and see a sign on the door closed because of the weather, no event, and they were all inside. There's hardly any room you could walk around. It's really great, yeah. It's amazing.
Yes, as John said, the Good Roads Conference, sick for most of it, so it was very enjoyable. But there was a guest speaker and he talked about the tendering of large projects and how terrible we are at it. And it was very interesting, and taking the lowest bid was his, you're encouraging people to lie to you, was his whole thing. You're trying to get the lowest number possible and then try and build the number up later. So I found it hugely interesting because anyway, I'll bring something forward later on because I want to try and implement something to see if we can't do something with that. Mr. Mayor, are you doing the 25th? Or you want me to do it?
Doesn't matter. You go ahead if you want.
Had a meeting last night of the anniversary for the 25th anniversary of the town. We agreed that it will be down at the fairgrounds. It just made sense with the infrastructure they have there, and God forbid if it rains, we got someplace we can all scatter and get in out of the rain. So it's going to be down there. It's on June 13th. I got told today that Bob Seeger Band is coming. They
Cover band.
yeah.
Thanks for having
They're local. I saw them at the Imperial Theater and they're fantastic. It was a great night. So they were booked, but maybe it was just penciled in because Brad called them and they took it. So he's got them booked, he says. So that will be good. And that's all I have.
Great.
Kamlaki is likely opening as well, or one of our local bands.
Oh yeah, I didn't know the name of it. That's why it was something
Kamlaki
Kamlaki. That was it.
is a member. Most of them live in Kamlaki, and one of them is actually one of our.
Oh, see, you know more than
You don't want to admit that till afterwards.
They're well received. It should be great.
Ms.
I
Rodriguez.
didn't know, Nicole.
Yes, no, my next meeting is next Thursday. Relation. And I do have a meeting now booked with the MPP Steve Pincinel. And trying to advocate for fire service funding. Yeah, for them.
Something with the conservation authorities. Restructured.
Well, we haven't received the agenda yet, so.
Talking about maybe changing it a little bit. I thought I read somewhere. Never mind, they'll do what they want and tell us what they're gonna do. So.
Yeah, so that's Friday. Steve Pincinel.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy. Since our last meeting, as you heard, I had the opportunity to attend the Ontario Good Roads Convention. We had a welcome by Mayor Olivia Chow. There's 3 sessions that I took part in. One is called Getting Big Things Done on the Budget on Time. The second one was Canada's Place on the Changing World, which, as we all know, things are changing very quickly out there. The one I really enjoyed the most was building for the future, our workforce training, retention, and development strategies. It's a mouthful, but it certainly makes sense. We have to be prepared for the future and our workforce changes that take place every day. CAO and I had the opportunity to meet with a couple of Enbridge executives. We laid out some of our wish lists, which include further developing some of our areas to extend the gas supply to residents in areas that we feel for development, like Kamlaki, Reese's Corners, and several other areas. We also looked at the possibility of extending some into a rural area, which we know our farmers are looking for very, very much. So they didn't promise us anything, but they said they would look and crunch the numbers to see if it's a possibility. And I attended the environmental, the Easter in Kamlaki was good. I got to help hundreds of kids up to go see the Easter Bunny. They're not getting cold or the flu from them. Doctor recruitment, that committee is probably going to be winding down because of the amalgamation of the water health, both Petrolia and Sarnia, continuing that. Councillor Vasey reported on the 25th anniversary. One thing to share with our residents, we're going to have a big fireworks show to wrap up the celebration on that Saturday night, June the 13th. And today we had a meeting with Minister Flack, working through for laws to try to get us a municipal supply service committee. So we as a group can go out and lobby the provincial and federal government for funding for projects that we need. By forming this corporation, still will be laws, but it gives us the opportunity to get this money and not offset requests from Plympton-Wyoming. For example, if we need to spend $20 million, instead of Plympton-Wyoming asking for it, it would be this corporation. So that still allows us the opportunity to go out and ask for funding for our own works that we need. That's all that I've done in the last week or so. Deputy, what about you?
No, I've done a lot less. So, no, I haven't got anything to report. How about staff? Any staff got anything important? Nothing. You've done nothing this, yeah, I know, you were with him, yeah. You're keeping track of each other, I hope, okay. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, council, let's go to item 7.1. Counts, Deputy Clerk, did that one?
Items at this time.
All right, let's take us to 8.1, staff reports. Moved by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolvett, that the report by Lisa Smeekens, Executive Assistant Deputy Clerk, dated March the 30th, 2026, regarding Arrow Cemetery Restoration Project be received and the project be approved. Any questions on this report? Councillor Rodriguez?
Thank you. So there is a possibility of doing it all at once, but there wasn't enough budgeted for it, so the ask would be to come out of cemetery reserves, is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
So it's not new tax dollars or general, it's already been earmarked for this work, we just didn't quite ask for enough at budget
We
time.
already had 5,000 that we hadn't used.
Yeah.
It's a fair sized project and anyway, we had a big discussion and the committee felt that we're gonna go at it. It's kind of a unique, nice cemetery, but things have grown into the bush. And there's some huge headstones and stuff out there. And we had different options, according to the government. We had an option where we could just go in and just lay those big headstones onto the ground. Don't try to straighten them up, don't do anything to them, just lay them on the ground. And the committee felt like, you know, we take pretty good care of our graveyards and they're inactive. We got them looking good, except this one's been allowed to just grow over. We didn't think laying them on the ground just creates a safety issue, a maintenance issue, trying to cut around them. Cause like I say, some of them are maybe 5 feet tall or even a little bit better. So anyways, this option come up and we had a company make a bid on it. And so it was going to cost between $10,000 and $13,000. We already had 5. So then we looked at it, and Lisa, correct me if I'm not accurate here, but we had spent some money out there building a mound and all the old headstones that were laying in the mud, laying in the bush, flat ones, we actually laid them all on the mound and did a nice job. And this bid that came in was wanting to do a bunch of work to that mound, and the committee felt, no, we've already did all that. It looks fine. We're happy with that. So that, I'm not sure what the final figures are, but that reduced the price in order to do this bigger project. But the committee felt we should go ahead, get it done this year, and then we're done with it rather than put it over 2 or 3 years because prices keep going. Lisa, anything new that?
So after the cemetery committee met, I did reach out to Memorial Restorations, which is who we got the quote from. I asked them what the cost would be just to simply clean the headstones that are on the mound since they're cleaning all the other headstones. And they said that the cost for cleaning the headstones would be identical to the cost for cleaning them and putting the grid underneath them to prevent them from sinking. So they feel it would be doing a disservice because in order to clean them, they need to pull them up off the mound, completely clean them and then place them back in. They also noted that they would encourage us to put the grid underneath, just because it will be a future issue with the headstone starting to sink into the mound. There already are some that are sinking, and that would prevent that from the future. They said that the other things that they were gonna do, they were fine with leaving them off, like, because they had suggested changing it to grass, and standing up the cross. Those things aren't needing, they were just options, but they charge solely based on the amount of time they're at the site. So if they're just gonna clean it, it's not gonna take any more time than to place the grid and prevent it from sinking. So this quote that was provided for council is the full amount, the 10 to 11. Days.
I apologize for not having all that information, but our cemetery meeting is actually tomorrow, so it's been a month since we met. So I guess what we're asking the council here is to approve the full amount. Let us get on with the project, or if council doesn't agree, it could be phased in over a couple of years, but you can expect the price to go up if we do that. So we have the money, not coming anywhere from the taxpayers. We have 45,000 in reserves for those inactive cemeteries. So we would ask you to approve the total package if that's how you see fit.
Further questions for Councillor Vacy?
Yes, just to, the price of it, your worship, will this be going out for tender or anything, or is this such a unique thing that only one guy that does it? Because at 13 grand estimate, like, everybody else would have to come in, at least get quotes with it. So, like, I don't know, maybe you can't, nobody else does it. I don't know.
The method that the cemetery group has used to obtain the price would meet procurement policy as it stands today. Specialized services are not required necessarily to get multiple quotes. It is up to the department head to ensure that the quote is of good value. And it does meet the procurement policy as it stands today.
And yeah, I agree. If we're gonna, why go back twice and do it? Get it done and be done.
Any further questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Wolvett, to you and your council or your committee, thank you for doing that and recognizing those of the past for our community. Okay, council, let's go to item 9.1 bylaws, moved by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen. The bylaw 9 of 2026 for the Barnes Drain, 2025, and associated branch drains being a bylaw to provide for drainage works in the town of Plympton-Wyoming in the county of Lambton be taken as having been read a third time and finally passed on this 8th day of April 2026, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. All those in favor? That is carried. 9.2, moved by Councillor Vacy, seconded by Councillor Rodriguez. That bylaw 10 of 2026 for the Toronto Street Drain, Thames Street East and Niagara Street East branch drains being a bylaw to provide for drainage works in the town of Plympton-Wyoming in the county of Lambton, taken as having been read a third time and finally passed on this 8th day of April 2026. The mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. All those in favor? That's carried. 9.3, Moved by Councillor Wolvette, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that bylaw 29. See something now?
Once you're done reading the
All right.
motion.
Bylaw 29 of 2026 being a bylaw to appoint officers, board and committee members and employees of the corporation of the town of Plympton-Wyoming be taken as having been read 3 times and finally passed. Mayor and clerk are authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Mr. Savansky.
I'd like to suggest the following amendment, item 24, Special Events Committee. Ms. Carolyn Attridge has stepped down. So if with council's permission, if we could pass the bylaw as amended, we'll ensure that Ms. Attridge is no longer listed as a member of the committee.
All right, the mover and seconder, that's Councillor Wolvette. Councillor Van Claveren, are you okay with that?
Yes, you're fine, sir.
Council good? All those in favor? That's carried.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment. I was not here last meeting and I was appointed to the Senior Advisory Committee. I'd like to make a comment about that. There are other appropriate candidates for that committee. Mr. Wolvette, I heard your comments. I watched the thing on YouTube and you're not far behind, so.
Well, they want somebody more senior, thank you. Age before beauty.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all.
You'll represent us well, Deputy. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for offering to do that.
I think I was asked. I didn't come right out and offer. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, item 11.1. Correspondence. I have a motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolvette. The correspondence items A, B. Would that not be A to D? Clerk?
Yes, A to D.
I'll let you click that. Okay, thank you. The correspondence items A to D related to recommended reading and routine approval and information items not otherwise addressed by resolution be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly. To my right, Councillor Bojan, anything from you?
Thank you.
Councillor Basie?
Yes, number A, I guess, the northern Manitoulin, they're talking about the tar and chip and the lesser oil. Do we have this problem that they're stating?
Yeah, through your worship, I'm glad you asked that because I saw this on the agenda and I immediately reached out to one of our contractors that performs this work for us. And they confirmed that that's not a problem in this area.
Well, I guess I have no issues. Thank you.
Councillor Rodriguez?
Excuse me. Just a question. I was encouraged to read a report from the Environmental Committee last week. And in there, talking about the Petrolia, or in the agenda, maybe, talked about the Petrolia new intake work and how it may impact us. Will we also be hearing about that in a future council meeting? Or is that just strictly environmental?
It's on the agenda today.
Oh, sorry.
D, I believe.
I can comment on it if you.
Yes, well, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yep. So through your worship, Petrolia is planning to put in a new intake, basically in the same location as the one is now. So they've undertaken a municipal class environmental assessment to do so. As part of that process, all of the municipalities in the area will get informed. If they determine that the intake zone does not need to be increased in size, then it's basically status quo. If it does increase into our municipality, then there could be some restrictions in the future on development projects and things of that nature. But it will still follow the source water protection process that's in place right now. So if nothing changes, we're status quo. We still do a source water review. But if that does increase, I can't give you exact answers on what that exactly means, but there could be additional restrictions on what we can do in the future, like sanitary overflows, for example.
Who has control over them? The ministry?
Yes.
Councillor Willett?
What are they building out there now at the water intake? In Brights Grove, what's that they're doing?
I believe it's a pump station that they're doing right now.
No, but they're They're gonna cross the road too. They've got it all closed off, has been for months.
Well, that's good.
Heading out into the lake,
Yeah, so the intake's going to.
yeah, that's the intake, yeah. Right?
I believe so,
Intake?
yeah. There, I know that they rebuilt the pump station there and then they're
Yeah.
also doing the intake. yes.
The intake at the same time, yeah.
Councillor Wolfett, anything from you?
Sure.
Councillor Van Cleven?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just a point of interest to our, on behalf of our special guests here tonight, they might find this interesting. Number C or letter C, CN right-of-way vegetation management. Their opening line says that CN, we're committed to operating a safe and efficient railway while fostering trust and collaboration with the communities we serve. You may not be aware that CN has refused to pay their drainage charges. So up to the tune, I believe I have the number correct, about 150,000 to Plympton-Wyoming alone. Any neighboring municipalities, it's much more. And I thought you might be interested in that because it's a bit of a battle that we've had to take on. I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Stephanie?
No, nothing, it's all covered. But it's all been covered.
All right, council, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. New business.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can we take a 5 minute
Sure.
before we get into this one,
Yeah, no problem.
please? Thank you.
All right, council, 5 minute personal break.
Thank you for
Let's welcome back. Thank you for taking that break. What we're gonna do now, there has been some concerns raised. This past weekend, we had a substantial amount of rain in a very short period of time. And many of our residents, myself included, got hit with some water that has caused a lot of concern, and I think it's only fitting that I'd like to ask Mr. De Silva to start off by, we owe it to our residents to maybe a little explanation of where we're at, what's going on within our municipality. Hopefully, we can answer some of their questions that they've had, and rightfully so. I think that, you know, we owe that to them to do that. So, Mr. De Silva, I'm going to turn have you got any voice back yet, or?
No, your worship. So obviously I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, but I kind of anticipated that the room would be full today, and I really wanted to be here to address your concerns. You know, I understand how frustrating this situation is, so I'm gonna go through a couple of things here, if you don't mind. And then at the discretion of the mayor, I'll also open myself up to answer some questions that you may have. So I will kind of cut straight to the chase here. Most of our infrastructure in the Village of Wyoming was constructed in the 60s and 70s. Obviously doesn't meet today's standards necessarily. So right off the hop, there's a capacity issue. But even when you look at capacity issues, we could replace every pipe in the village tomorrow, and we still have downstream constraints. So geographically, Wyoming in the northwest, kind of north of Confed and west of Broadway, that water goes to the northwest. Pretty much all of Wyoming, the rest of Wyoming goes south, and it ends up in the Stonehouse Drain. The Stonehouse Drain goes into Enniskillen, into Petrolia, and eventually ends up in Bear Creek. So it's multi-jurisdictional. So we have done some work on the Stonehouse Drain. Obviously, we have some constraints downstream. So I think it's important to focus not just on what the town is doing, but talk about a little bit about risk mitigation. What can we do at our properties? And by no means am I placing any blame on you folks for what happened. I feel terrible about what happened. I want to be collaborative. I want to be cooperative, and I want to address these issues together. So I did print off kind of a little bit of literature on sump pumps, and, you know, we could discuss about what's a bad way to tie into sump pump and what's a good way to tie into sump pump. But, you know, to talk about what we've done, like I said, we did the Stonehouse Drain improvements. We continue to reconstruct roads. We continue to build drainage infrastructure. This year, one of our major projects is Thames, Niagara, and Main Street. And I'll tell you why this is important. Because a lot of people, they point to the development and they say it must be because of the development. Well, Silver Springs, Ketter Way, that storm infrastructure does not touch the Village of Wyoming. It goes into a pond, makes its way into the Robertson Parker Drain, and then eventually outlets into the Stonehouse Drain south of town. So it goes in the pond, it gets controlled, it sits there for about 24 hours, and it gets released really slowly. And the unique thing about our project this year is we're going to take even more water out of Wyoming, put it into that pond, and let it release slowly. So that's going to take a little bit. It's not going to solve the problem, but it helps to take a little bit of that downstream pressure off. This year, in this year's budget, $1.6 million is being spent on drainage infrastructure, 600,000 on that project alone. So the investment is there. I know it doesn't address your immediate concerns, but the investment is there. Not only that, council approved 20% increase in operating budget for drain maintenance. So 3 years ago, we cleaned all the catch basins that we knew of in Wyoming. This year, we're doing it again. This was planned before this happened. And we're going to start doing flushing and CCTV videos of the stormwater infrastructure with that additional 20% that we now have at our disposal to do some more proactive maintenance. So we continue to make investments in infrastructure, and sorry, I didn't catch your name. I apologize, but I understand you had sewage in your basement. This is something that I take very seriously, and I'm so sorry for that. We just had a discussion. I encourage all of you to go into the Environmental Services Committee agenda on this past Thursday, where we brought together a plan to tackle exactly that issue. Not just a plan, action. We're actually going to do something about it. We want to start in the hamlet of Kamlaki. There's about 200 homes there. Right? We want to start there because this is a new program for us and we want to, they have issues as well. This is a new program for us and we want to get rid of all the teething issues and then we want to start moving it around. Council hasn't approved that plan, but they'll see it at the end of the month. So a basement full of sewage to me, I want to eliminate that in the future. I want that to be a legacy of ours that we can actually eliminate that. So we got a plan, read it, please. We're serious about it. We want to identify immediate areas of concern. So one of the reasons I don't have a voice today is because I spent about 5 hours talking to you folks. I don't know if any of you are in the room yesterday about all these things. Call us, let us know where you're experiencing these issues so we can prioritize those locations. Let's make sure the infrastructure is at least in good condition. So please call, email. I'll provide you with my cards. Let's start a conversation. And then, like I said, all development is reviewed to today's standards and all development is required to store their water and release it very slowly. So I understand why people point because it happened 5 years ago. It seemed to happen at the same time, but their system is truly independent from yours. And what are we doing in the future? We talk about this all the time. We know we have downstream constraints. So we started thinking outside the box. Is there anything that we can do south of the Village of Wyoming? Can we put in a relief pond? And that's something that we want to study because we might have to store some water for a little while before we send it down to the stone house. So that's all I have to say right now. Your concerns, we're taking them very, very seriously. We want to help. We want to work collaboratively. Let's review the sump pumps. Let's see if they're connected because people, they see a road being flooded and they're like, okay, oh, there's a problem. But that's a tool in the toolbox for us. If it's on the road and it's not in your basement, that's a win. That's a win for us. So we'd rather see it on the road than see it in your basement. So, some pumps where they're tied in, get it out of the house. Because what happens is, and this is just my final point, is if you have a sump pump that's tied into a storm line that's 5 feet underground and you have 5 feet of water because the road is flooded, that's 5 feet of head pressure. It's kind of working. The sump pump will still work, but it won't be as efficient as it could be if it was pumping just into the atmosphere. So getting that water out of the house, as quickly as we can. Basements are a funny thing. In North America, we decided that it was a really good idea to dig a big hole so we can have some extra living space. That's the same thing we do when we build pools. Yeah, we build pools by digging a big hole and filling it with water. So then we take all this water outside the house and we say, let's bring it inside the house. And then let's get it back outside the house. So let's manage that a little bit as well. And that will be my last point, Mr. Mayor.
I think Mr. Silva, I'm going to go to council for questions first for Mr. Silva, and then I'll have another announcement after that. So, Councillor Bojan, anything from you?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I had a few notes, but Mr. De Silva kind of addressed the main parts. I think the main point is just addressing the fact that every single one of us, like, I wouldn't wish a flooded basement on my worst enemy, let alone if it happened twice, 3 times or more. And you put yourself in the shoes of someone like that, you can start to understand how isolating and frustrating it becomes if there's that thought that they're not being heard, there's nothing being done. So Mr. De Silva kind of took a lot of that subject matter already for what's currently underway and what can be done and what solutions there are. So I guess the 2 points that I did want to go back to, though, is the first one, because one of the things that I was going to ask, and Mr. De Silva mentioned it, was this mapping out or clearly identifying these recurring problem areas, because if there is value in getting into those underground systems and seeing what the conditions are in that entire area, and it would be a lot, if there is a need for it, it'd be a lot cheaper to flush out that underground stuff if there is buildup or if there is issues, and do it more often. So I do want to make sure we do that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And then the other thing too is I know Paul mentioned the new enforcement or education program that they're looking at for the sump pump stuff. But correct me if I'm wrong, but if anyone here is unsure if there's sump pumps working against them right now, they can call Paul right now, and I'm assuming someone go look at it. Like, it doesn't have to be part of a formal program. If there's a way, if you wanted to find out if there's something you can do in your home, I'm assuming Paul's open to you calling and you'll check it out.
Yeah, through your worship, absolutely. Call me. I'll come to your house and have a look. And we'll work on it together. And just to Councillor Bojan's first point, I had a call from somebody on Erie Street that said, well, the catch basins on the north side, they don't seem to be working very well. But the catch basins on the south side are working very well and they're tied in the same system. Well, that's exactly what you said. Prioritize. Okay, what's wrong with those? We'll go in there, we'll look at them, we'll flush them and make sure they're working again. So it's important that we get this feedback from the residents to say, here are the problem areas, and then we can tackle those first.
So that's kind of where I'll leave it for now. I'm not gonna go through everything I have written down, but.
Okay, Councillor Bojan, first, thank you very much. Councillor Vacy?
No, I have nothing. He stole all my thing, so.
Okay.
I was just surprised how quickly, like you say, the streets were flooded. My yard was flooded. My daughter's yard was a pool, but by noon it was gone. So the system's working. It's just the town river system. The water's got to go somewhere, and it only travels so fast. So it did, like, so the first storm we had a couple years ago, it was a day and a half that I remember. Like for the big ponds in town went, so. What we did to the stone house obviously worked, but it's still getting backed up somewhere down the way, because we're flat. Where we live in Lambton County is flat, right? So the water doesn't travel, there's not that much drop to get rid of it, so I know it's frustrating. I say I had water in the basement and my sump ran nonstop trying to keep up, so and I'm kind of on, not a hill, but I'm higher than my two neighbors. Well, and you guys, right? Your backyard, because it's like a bowl. It's gonna go bottom of the bowl, so. Other than that, Paul's answered everything.
All right, Councillor Rodriguez?
Thank you. So a few things. I think it is very important that everybody does report this flooding, especially if it's in your basement, especially if you're having so that we are able to target those areas and see what is not working, what do we need to do different. I mean, I saw people commenting on how they've just had paid for big drainage improvements and still had flooding. Why is that? Somebody mentioned how they put in a flow preventer but still had a problem. Why is that happening? So reaching out, staff wants to solve these problems. They don't want to have these problems, obviously. It's very costly to everybody. I totally appreciate the insurance part of it, and you can't have that. It's too costly. It's costly right across the province now. I mean, I had a hard time even getting flood insurance, not because I had a flood, but because it's a problem in the area, right? So I empathize with that, and those two things shouldn't be clashing. So how do we get to a positive there? McKay Park, see, there was a lot about McKay Park and going through properties. That brings up another point. Are the roads just flooding? Are your lawns just flooding, but your house is okay? It's important to know those differences, because the ground is going to flood and roads are designed to take all that excess water and allow it to drain away slowly. So sometimes they will look like rivers when you have heavy. That's what they're supposed to do. But if it's in your basements and it's causing that kind of problem where it's sewage, that's where we really need to focus. And I do know McKay Park is already on. We just approved that drainage work where there is going to be some additional drainage to help drain McKay Park before it does travel any further. When I go to Kamlaki, you just put in some, what do you call them? Risers? What do you call them? Because the sewer catchments were lower than the storm drains. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can explain, your worship. Yeah, so what we did in Kamalaki, we identified several maintenance holes that were in really low lying areas. So what would happen is you get water, drain fills up, water goes into the sanitary maintenance holes, gets in the sanitary system, inundates the system, we can't keep up. So we identified a bunch of them, we put completely sealed systems on all of them. So that's just, we are working on that. In Wyoming, we don't necessarily have a ton of maintenance holes that I would say are necessarily low lying. Most of them are in the road. So I don't think that's a big concern. We also did CCTV inspections on the entire Wyoming sanitary system in 2023 and did not identify any major concerns at that time. And you've probably seen the truck going around recently. We're doing some flushing on the sanitary sewers right now. So yeah, to your point, Councillor Rodriguez, if we can identify areas where that's getting in, we can solve that on the public side for sure. We CCTV, we fix problems, we find leaks, we fix problems. Now it's kind of transitioning into, you know, what's happening on the private side. Are some pumps illegally connected into the sanitary sewer, because that's a big problem.
The other thing I wanted to mention, you said you were gonna start in Kamlaki with this program. Is it because Kamlaki has had repeated backups as well as some of these areas in Wyoming? What gave it priority, I guess, over?
So,
Through your worship, that's exactly it. I think it was April of last year, similar situation, lots of rain, flooded basements in Kamlaki. We moved really quickly on drafting a plan to tackle that. We've already done a ton of work on the public side. We found issues with the sewers, actually, and we've sealed all that up on the public side. Well, the program is looking to transition into what could we do on the private side. So yes, we did identify that was it. We know it's an issue here. Kamlaki has about 200 homes. We figure we could do that in about 5 months, and we can take all the lessons learned from that and bring them to Wyoming so that we can really hit the ground running when it comes to doing here.
Thank you for saying that, because that was going to be my next question, the timeline for Kamlaki to be done so we can get moving quickly. It's not going to be 2 or 3 years. You're saying like within 5 months, hopefully. And then maybe next year we can get to this area.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
anything else, Councillor, before we move on?
I think, I do have one more question. Who responds after hours when people are looking for help?
Yeah, we do have an emergency after hours number that you can call.
I did.
It didn't.
Also, somebody showed up, but nothing was done. I didn't even get
Is that the guy in the pickup truck that goes screaming by your house at 100 mile an hour?
Not sure who it was. I know it went to our operations coordinator who deployed resources at the time. I was told that person went out, talked to some people, cleared some catch basins, reported back to the operations coordinator and myself. I was involved with this all day on Saturday. And I apologize if you didn't get the service, the customer service that you deserve.
The person showed up, but I'm not sure what catch basins were cleaned. I don't know. I didn't observe anything. My neighbors and I were cleaning.
It's a snow shovel with the catch basins on my street, and within 20 minutes, the road was clear. Snow shovels on catch basins that are in the front yard. They're not even on the road. So
we did it ourselves, so.
nothing's been done in the catch basin in my backyard, which is, well, it's actually not in my backyard. It's in the alley behind my backyard. We've never seen any attention to that. And we just checked before we came out. I could probably stand on the debris that's underneath the water now that's settled, that's blocking the exit drain line, which is probably what's causing the amount of water to come into our backyard, which is pushing against the wall, breaking the wall and pouring into the basement. So we have a little bit of frustration in our neighborhood over there.
So we're gonna get to you in a second.
Thank you.
Councillor Wobet, anything from you?
Well, I mean, it's extremely unfortunate that this heavy rain came again. I know I didn't get any water in our basement, but I can tell you that my sump pump run for days. And I was down there every 15 minutes and actually got a spare pump just in case, but fortunately enough where my house is, the sump pump goes out and goes over a hill that has about an 8-foot drop. So I wasn't too concerned about getting rid of the water. I was more concerned about the pump burning out. That was my concern. But I took a drive over here. Where I live out there, there wasn't a big water problem in the community, but the fields were. But when I come over here and drove by McKay Park and stuff, and the stone house drain, I mean, that thing was right full. So, you know, water was not getting away. I mean, the other concern that I put down, like catch basins. And even yesterday, I was looking at the catch basins, and there's still a lot of them, got a lot of debris on catch basins. And like right Main Street down here, so to me, and I'm not blaming anybody, because when you got that heavy rain, it almost washed everything, leaves, everything off the lawns and right down the street into the catch basins, because that's where the water was going. But you know, when we get these rain events, I'm thinking that the least we can do is get people out, get people out and get driving around and looking at it, not one person. And the same thing with an emergency phone call. I was getting calls, who do we call? Somebody said, oh, you called Jacobs. Well, Jacobs isn't gonna do any good for catch basins. That's our own maintenance people. But you know, we aren't the only ones that had problem, you know, like, oh my goodness, up in Michigan. I mean, their rivers were overflowing. Frankenmuth was underwater, like rivers, because they got the brunt of it. I'm not making any excuses. We got problems here. North of here, same thing, rivers overflowing and the yards flooded. So we spend literally millions of dollars on drainage, and this Stonehouse drain that you guys all know go down by the Baptist church out here. I mean, you can see how much maintenance was done there. But as Paul said, we got restrictions at the other end going through those other municipalities, and that's got to be resolved somehow, whether that's a catch or a big lake up there or whatever. But the other thing I'll say in closing, because I don't know how you stop it with these heavy rains. I just don't know. And I'm not sure anybody else here knows neither, but don't feel bad to complain, call counselors, do whatever you have to do, because I've heard an awful lot of nasty stuff, or seen a lot of nasty stuff on Facebook and stuff about some of our neighboring municipalities, and, you know, being cut off because they call and don't bug us. That's what we're here for. And let me assure you, there isn't a counselor here. If you give a counselor a call, they know who to get a hold of. So if that emergency number don't work, or call the mayor.
Even better, even better.
Seriously. I don't know how to solve the problem. I really don't. Not gonna sit here and lie to you. I have no, I don't know what the correction is to stop it in these heavy rains. I don't know. Maybe somebody else does, but I don't.
Councillor Wilvet.
What was your number?
Councillor Van Claveren, they know where I live.
Mr. Mayor, I don't, in the sake of time, I don't want to repeat what everybody else has said, and your DeSilla did such a great job and genuinely reaching out and offering help and some steps to move forward. I will say, maybe this relates to our presentation a little earlier too. I know you folks were helping other people. And most people here were helping other people on Saturday. There was a neighbor to my right, very disabled. He's lived there for 25 years without a sump pump. He had 3 inches of water in the basement. 80-year-old gentleman next to me, he was down at a culvert scraping off all the corn stalks. And then so I was helping. I couldn't believe he went down in there. I had to drag him up out of there, but I seen he was back there picking up all the corn stalks once the water was gone. It's a community effort. It really is. We have an impulse maybe to want to voice our frustrations and maybe lash out. Can't believe Facebook doesn't solve problems. That just shocks me. So we're working on it, and we'll do it together with you folks. And Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it back to you, because I'm sure there's lots of questions.
Deputy?
Yeah, you mentioned that you're going to look at Kamlaki first, but I think there's only one in this whole audience that there's one Kamlaki, and the rest are Wyoming. I think they're the ones that are really looking for some response, you know, for this. So can you rush this Wyoming bit a little bit faster at all, or I'm not sure how to say, well, I'll just say it. Can you get Wyoming done faster?
Yeah, through your worship, I'd love to. This program still needs to be approved by council. It's coming back at the end of the month. And we plan to act fast. I anticipate it's gonna take about 5 months to do a Kamlaki. And then, you know, there's 1,000 homes here. We need to inspect them all. It is going to unfortunately be slow process. But, you know, I said this at our environmental services committee, if we just have a little bit of courage to step up and do this and face, you know, the issues and actually take action, I think we can make a really positive difference, and I'm committed to doing that. So I don't know if we can accelerate our effort, perhaps we can have that discussion at council at the end of the month. But certainly Wyoming is a priority.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So, yeah, like you've had yours, your basement flooded 3 times. Is that within the short period of time or over a couple of years?
Since 2020, so the first
Oh,
big
okay.
was 2020, then a check valve, and then you're okay. 2024, we caught it in time, so no damage was done. And then this weekend, unfortunately,
Yeah, well, it was a good one this weekend. Sure. No, I just thought I'd ask the question because there was concern here.
Mr. Sabansky?
So a couple of really things to add, before.
Yeah.
The sump pump disconnection program, I know Paul wants to rush it as fast as he can, but really it'll depend on the residents, how willing they are to let us inspect the sump pumps, right? There'll be some hesitation on that, I'm sure, as there was with the water meter program. So we want to move forward with that. We'll be looking to get going on that, but the community's cooperation will be key on moving that forward. The check valves are great. However, there's 2 challenges with check valves. Whether it's yourself because you're handy and comfortable or a plumber, you should be popping that inspection chamber once or twice a year, making sure it's clean and cleaning it out with a hose. And the really big challenge, and I know it's a really big inconvenience for everyone, and I hate to even say this, but if there's a massive rain and you are aware that your check valve may be closed, you'll want to avoid using showers, dishwashers, and the laundry because that water has nowhere to go at that point. A lot of you know that, but I know some people may not. It's a really big inconvenience, and we hate that you're having that inconvenience, but we all know that sewage is even more of an inconvenience, so.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, so I know that several of you would like to say something, and although you don't have delegation status, I'm willing, as my mayor's power, to allow you 5 minutes. So if you want to speak about something, I would ask you to go to the lectern, identify yourself and where you live, and you have 5 minutes. Okay, is there anybody that would like to speak? Okay, go ahead, Mo.
I'll make mine short, okay? Just, I'm Mo Stedman. I live on Norman Street at the end. Didn't get flooded, but the water was, all those houses there on the west side from Falmouth Street north. Backyard's all flooded. Okay, our street was flooded. All right, so I find exactly what Mr. Da Silva said. When the water level gets high, my sump pump doesn't do anything. All right, so I've actually installed a second sump pump that has a pop-up and it comes out, excuse me, it comes out on the lawn. That's the only way I saved my house, to be honest with you. Okay, so there's things you can do. You're talking a little bit about a pond. I think the pond's the right thing. You gotta have somewhere to dump all that water and give the stuff time to address the situation. You could put a 6-foot tile in there and it's not gonna take those big rains. The other thing is we all have big homes and big roofs. A lot of water comes off of them. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you, Mo.
Speaker. Oh, one more thing, can I? One thing you might want to take a look at, okay, and just like, because I've done a little bit of this in the plants, some of the piping, okay, so you have your catch basin and your pipe comes into the catch basin, usually about a foot above the bottom, and that's the trap, right? So that's where the sand goes. Some of that sand goes in the pipe. Sand's hard to move. If you ever looked at putting spinners through the pipe, some of them are not running as well as it could. Just an idea.
Yep, through your worship, just to address two things you said. Yes, those sumps in the catch basins, they'll be cleaned out this year. So we
Right.
do them on a 3-year
Yeah.
cycle. We did
Yeah.
400 catch basins
Okay.
last year.
Right.
We intend on doing 400 more catch basins
Okay.
this year here in
Yeah.
Wyoming. And then secondly, you had made a point about, sorry, it's my memory is escaping me at the moment. About the pond.
Yeah.
I can't make any promises, but what I can
No.
say is I'd like to study
It's the right
the
thing.
concept, right?
It's the right thing to
I
do.
want to know, can this work?
Yeah.
And then if we have a concept, then we can go, there's grant funding that's available for this type of stuff.
It won't
And
be cheap.
right, but they want shovel-ready projects, so we need to kind of get everything on paper first, and then we can go to appeal for some grants.
Just one more thing, the pipe, it's the pipe that gets the sand in the bottom. Yeah, and sand's hard to move, like it gets in there, and if it sits over the summer, it'll get like concrete, like it's hard to move, eh? Just can't move it. You need a spinner in there and they'll run it through. But I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mo.
Thanks for your time, eh? Can I go now? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Mary? Oh, Tara. You're up.
Or am I going?
Let's go together.
Oh, all right.
So we are Mike and Tara Vanado. We live at 577 Brook Street. We are definitely the lowest spot on the lane. It definitely pools. In July of 2024, it pooled enough and put enough pressure on our foundation wall that the water came pouring into my basement like I turned on the bathroom tap, like the bathtub tap. So it's been an ongoing issue. We are constantly out there poking and picking at that drainage hole in the back alleyway behind the property. And like I said, Kelly and I were out on the street scraping the surface of the street of all the debris. I get it. There was a lot of water. There's a lot of debris right now because leaves haven't been raked and sand comes off the road and sticks and twigs and whatnot. But the next time I spend 2.5 hours literally bucketing water out of the wall into my, and now I've learned, don't put it into my wash basin, but I was dumping it into my wash basin because I had nowhere else to go because I couldn't go up the stairs because by the time I got to the bottom of the stairs, the next bucket's full and it's in my basement anyway. It's been an ongoing issue since we moved in 2020. The best thing that could have happened on Saturday was John Van Cleveren came out to my backyard and actually took a look around. Unfortunately, he came out just after all the water had drained away, like within moments. So
What'd you do?
Sigh of relief, to be honest, yeah.
It was our snow shovels.
yeah, I did. I used the snow shovel because it's the quickest and easiest thing that I could grab off the front porch. Regardless, we have complained about this in the past. Previous town staff have come out and tried to address it by telling us to build a berm in our backyard, which would just increase the pool capacity, right? All the water would just wind up in the backyard, now in a pool as opposed to draining away. We didn't feel like that was a solution. We've planted trees. We've tried to clear space. We've tried to like dig little trenches to get the water to rush closer to that thing. But we checked before we came. The catch basin in our backyard, if I could get in there by taking the lid off, I could probably stand on the debris that is in there because the water is so clear on the surface that you can see the silt and the mud and the soil and the dirt and whatnot. So I was gonna play a little video, but skip that part for now. I'll let Mike say something because he's probably got something far more intelligent to say.
I do have some things that
We're a little heated.
my construction brain doesn't want me to say right now. I looked in that catch basin. I've got, for people that don't know, I have 35 years in the carpenter trade. I kind of know what I'm talking about when it comes. I framed houses. I got that. I looked in that catch basin. The outfall pipe, cannot see it. There's an inlet pipe that comes maybe from the neighbor's backyard above the water. The outfall, I don't care what you say, you haven't cleaned my drain since I've owned this house. You haven't been there. I haven't seen a camera. It's not one of your 400 that you've been to, right? So I know it for a fact. So it needs to be addressed. Mo said it, we need to get spinners in these things. We need to get cameras in these things. In 2024, I was walking in my backyard. It was above my knees, right? It went right up to the back of the house. Like Tara said, it was pouring in our house. Since then, I've done a little bit of landscaping. I actually created a little berm on the back of my house with my new sidewalk and things. Had I not done that, that water would have been doing the exact same thing again this rainfall. Big difference in 2024 was over 6 inches of rain have fallen. This rain, my gauge, less than 2 inches. Well, I can appreciate everybody saying a lot of rain in a little bit of time. Call a little bit of BS on that. Born and raised on a farm, 2 inches is a little bit of rain, but it's not a shit ton of rain, pardon my language. It really truly isn't. This system needs to be cleaned. It needs to be purged. I don't care if you have a 24-inch pipe that's running everything out to your your stone house drain. If that thing is full 3/4 of the way with sand and silt, it's not going to move water at 24-inch capacity. It's going to move it at the new capacity, right? So we're not using as much salt on the roads now. There's much more sand going on the roads now. That sand gets washed into the catch basins. Like Mo said, that stuff dries up in the summer, becomes concrete, reduces the size of this. You can put a camera in these things, you can see that capacity, right? It needs to be addressed. I'll argue with you till they're blue in the face about the fact that this was a lot of rain in a special rain event. Because every other day on the news, you hear of a special weather event. The climate change stuff, that I don't buy it. It was a rainstorm. It was a rainstorm. There wasn't even lightning and thunder. It was a rainstorm, right? So it needs to be addressed. We are on the south end of town. Yes, everything from the north comes this way. Hopefully this new project that you talked about, tying Thames in Maine, takes a little bit of that stuff off over into that other pond. It is nice to know that that pond is completely separate off of the system that comes out this way. And, that type of stuff, would be nice to know for future, for people that, the keyboard warriors on Facebook. Yeah, I started a post, I'll admit it. Right? And we do, as a town, we do need to do better. That was my comment. The town needs to do better to go in here, right? Like, we shouldn't have to, spend hours cleaning things off on the town. Gary, your son showed up, he stood in my backyard. If he was a cartoon character, his eyeballs would have went about like that and come back into his house when he came around the corner and saw the water. And it is like Tara was standing there at the same time. But he showed up in regular work boots, not water boots, right? When John showed up at my house 4 hours later, the water, literally within 20 minutes, that water, it dropped about 12 inches in about 20 minutes in my backyard, right? But he missed it. But he showed up in rubber boots. He was ready to work. The original guy that showed up wasn't ready to work, right? We need that too. When we make these calls, these people need to be ready to work. If I get a call right now to go in for a call in for work, I'm not going in not ready to work. I'm going to ready to go to work. So these people need to be doing that as well too, right? So
And we're not casting blame. We're literally just trying to protect our investment. It's the biggest investment of my life. And it's pretty scary when the wall starts to collapse and the water starts coming in and you're like, what do I do? Right. And then you have to live in that after the fact too.
yes, I dug in 2024, I dug the outside of my foundation. I patched that and I waterproofed and I fixed that hole, right? Like I know how to do that. I'm lucky. I'm skilled to do that. There's lots of people that don't have that skill and have that talent, right? And so they're calling plumbers, they're calling people, they're spending ridiculous amounts of money that I am fortunate that I can do on my own. So go ahead. I know he's got something to say.
Let him say something.
Through your worship, I agree with you. We need more maintenance. When I was talking before about that 20% increase in that report, it outlines exactly that. We want to flush and CCTV storm sewers. Historically, they weren't done, but we want to start, and we're starting this year. Another thing that we're doing is we're implementing a work order management system. And what that's going to help us do is map all of our assets, because I'll be quite honest with you, we don't know where 100% of them are, but we want to. So they're gonna be on a map and they're gonna be scheduled for preventative maintenance through this work order management system so that there's no forgetting, there's no institutional knowledge that, oh, I thought there was a catch basin back there, but maybe there isn't. We're gonna know. So those are kind of some of the steps. I know it doesn't help what happened on Saturday, but it is something we are addressing.
Okay, to that point, in 2024, I have the email chain. John, you actually were part of that email chain at one point, but it was with Elizabeth, who no longer is here. That's all been passed on to whoever the new one is, right? But that email chain from 2024, they knew that catch basin existed in 2024, right? They knew that the problem was there in 2024. That was the suggestion because it's in the maintenance alleyway between our lots. It's the town easement. It's not my property. It's the town easement where the catch basin is. So the town, if John looked at it, you look up the alley, it's wide open, nothing's blocking the town from coming in and looking at their equipment, right? So I strongly encourage, get a truck in there, get a camera in there, get some people in there and look at this. While I was waiting around in my backyard, a neighbor between myself and Mr. Vasey, he yelled across the fence and asked if we had water in, and we didn't. But he swears that there's actually a second catch basin on the other corner of my property because we are literally the belly of Brook Street on that side. I personally have never seen it. If that catch basin exists, it is 100% covered over by grass and debris and it is non-existent, right? So he swears that one is there. Camera inspection would easily find that, right?
Mr. Szymanski?
So I've been here quite a while and Paul is newish, so I started as superintendent of public works, so on the ground, and moved to this role over time. One thing that I've always struggled with in Wyoming is the alley catch basins. They are sporadic in nature and a lot of them don't have connectivity. We can't even find when they're installed, how they're installed, or where they go. So finding those catch basins and reconnecting them is going to be a bit of a process. In some situations, a drainage act application is actually going to be needed to make it work. But we do recognize that those alleyway catch basins are there. We probably do need a better job of checking in on them once in a while to make sure the tops are not covered over and that they're getting cleaned during our cleaning processes. May not be able to get the equipment in there due to the narrowness of the alleyway. It doesn't mean we can't manually clean them out as best as we can. So definitely it's an area of concern when we know that there's other properties like yours and other property owners who struggle with the same thing. And it's something that over time we are definitely going to have to fix and definitely look into, especially the ones that are causing damage sooner rather than later.
I appreciate all your efforts, and legitimately it feels like we're actually moving forward, far further forward than July 17th, the day after I was bailing water out of my basement, because a berm in my backyard is not going to fix the water that's getting into my basement when the water was literally pressing against the walls. So it feels good to be able to have a little bit of time of your time in order to express our concerns. And I'm not just speaking on behalf of myself, my whole street has issues, and I wish the whole street was here right now, but it's just Kelly, Mike and I. So if anybody else is on Brook Street,
We're assuming
on your behalf as well.
They may be watching, yeah.
Good night.
Yeah, whoa. Kelly's gonna be next. Can you, Council hold?
It was just a question.
Kelly, you're up next.
Sorry, I'm Kelly Sipkin Smith. I also live on Brook Street. I live at 566 Brook Street. We are very lucky. We do not get water flowing readily into our backyard, thankfully, or into our basement. But what we do have within the last 5 years that we didn't have when we first bought the house about 15 years ago is we actually have water rising up to our basement windows. So my sump pump's great. It's wonderful. But what's happening is I'll look out my window and all of a sudden I've got water. So I'm not worried about my sump pump failing on me. I'm worried about my windows failing and all of a sudden water coming in. So that's how much the water has rose and how the water is not dispersing as quickly as it has in the past. So that's our concern. Tara and I, like Tara said, we're out in very large rain boots, scraping off the top. So the end of my neighbor's driveway, their driveway is all like little stones. The end of their driveway just washes right into the catch basin every single time it rains. So that catch basin is filling up with stones every single time it rains. Okay. I have not once seen, and I mean, I'm out of the house. But I'm there all summer when generally maintenance is happening. I have not seen anybody come and clean that catch basin out, not once. Is there a maintenance record showing that this happens?
So,
Yes, through your worship, that happened in 2023 before my arrival, but I asked our operations coordinator about this, and they did keep maps of all the ones that were done.
Okay, is that accessible to us? Can we see that?
That might be a better question for CAO. Is it a freedom of information or can we?
Technically, we should take this conversation offline. It all depends on what you want that information for.
I just want to know that it's being cleaned and that there's being maintenance done on a regular basis is what we need to know.
We can look at that and we can provide that. Typically, obtaining the records, you need the Freedom of Information Act request.
Okay.
If you just want to view the records, we can probably accommodate that.
Perfect, that'd be great. My other question is not only maintenance being done on a regular basis, but when we call, okay, so say we've got a lot of rain and 2 inches of rain, and all of a sudden, you know, our street is flooded. So I called and I spoke with Elizabeth a number of times. I've got some email trails back and forth going back to probably 2023 at least, just saying, hey, we're starting to have some issues. When is our road scheduled to be redone? So the answer was, yeah, you know, we should probably put another drain on that road to get rid of some of this. Okay, I've never seen another drain. I don't know what another drain technically would do at this point anyways. It sounds like we've got some larger issues. But when I had this conversation, she said, well, your street's, you know, up to be redone at some point. I said, oh, okay, like in 5 years? Well, it's not really on the 5. Well, I can't really give you the information on that. Where's the transparency for us? So if it's not on a 5-year plan, when is it even on a plan? Is Brook Street even on the plan to be done at any point in the future? Can anybody answer that for us?
Silva?
I'll try. Thank you, your worship. Brook Street is not on any immediate plans
Okay.
to be done. With that said,
Yeah.
we are performing a new road condition assessment this year, which may or may not reprioritize some things. When we look at reconstructing a road, we don't just look at the road. We have to marry all of the infrastructure together. So if it's time for water mains to be replaced, if it's time for sewers to be replaced, if it's time for drainage improvements, if it's time for sidewalks to be replaced, we take all of those factors and that's how we determine what needs to be done and what is prioritized. And not just that, we have to work it in a logical way, like replacing your drainage system, but not replacing the one downstream may not be all that effective. So
Right.
that's one of the reasons why we're targeting the project that we're doing this year, is because this is going to help. The other projects, we have to look at it from, you know, from the ground up. What do we have to replace so that we can do your street? So there's just a lot of nuance into making those decisions.
And I think part of the issue with our street as well is that we're on a bit of a, we're at the bottom of a hill coming both ways, right? So the rain naturally is going to run down. So what can we do to solve that immediately? So we talked about, you know, cleaning out all these drains. What's the timeline on that for us? Because we're currently sitting with these drains that are plugged. So can we put a timeline to
This
that?
year.
So when? The summer?
This summer.
So can we say by June, we're gonna have these drains cleaned out?
Have to tender the project first, but you know, we'll work as fast as we can.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kelly. Council, hold your questions, make a note, because I'm going to the public here.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Do you have?
My
Name and your location, please.
My name's Frances Brooks, and I'm at 497 Ontario Street. I live right beside McKay Park. I've brought this issue to council before. The water is flowing from McKay into my yard. And I want to know, are you going to put a drain in McKay Park?
Mr. De Silva.
Through your worship, I'll answer this question the same way I answered it about a month ago. We're gonna shoot some grades there and see where it's affecting. And then if we need to put in a drain, we absolutely will do so.
Well, they're like, it's not just me, it's royally. It's the Legion called it McKay Lake.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, it was so deep. It doesn't matter which way the water's flowing, but it does flow into my backyard.
We're committed to addressing that.
Does that mean a drain? Like,
It could mean a drain. We haven't had a chance to do a topographical survey to see where the drain could be located. That's the only thing. We have to do a little pre-engineering before we can determine exactly what we want to do there. But we
is
committed,
there any drains in McKay Park?
there is a few drains in McKay Park, yes, but not located in the same corner as you.
So there's nothing on the east side.
That's my knowledge.
Will you get back to me as to?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we're gonna be scheduling our pre-construction meeting with all you fine folks. Here, we're looking at April the 22nd, I believe that's a Wednesday. You'll be getting a notice here pretty soon. Cause we wanna have a meeting with all of the residents that are gonna be affected by that construction project, so we can work out all of those details.
Okay, but I'm just saying, it's not just my place, it's Royally. It's the Legion. It's all along Erie Street. It's along at Ontario Street. Like, it's not just my place.
Understood.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Back row.
Sure. Yeah, I live in 579 Huron Street. My name's Ryan. I was just wondering if there's gonna be any kind of like reports on the infrastructure performance. So like the storm sewer capacity versus the actual flow, the catch basins. Anything we can use basically to say if the storm exceeded what our system was designed to handle, or was it in infrastructure underperformed?
Oh, through your worship, for sure it exceeded. Like I said, most of the stuff was built in 60s and 70s.
Right, but do we have any metrics for that?
Not at this time.
Okay.
But perhaps when I was talking about doing that study to see what we can do in the future.
Yeah.
Perhaps we can look at those type of metrics. We'll have maintenance metrics that we can, I can't commit to exact timeline on that. It's kind of a high level idea that we've been kicking around in the office for a little while. But Adam wanted to.
Yeah, but I'm looking at like.
We do have.
What was our basin when that 2 inches of rain came? Was it full?
We do have a 2017 waste stormwater master plan for the village that did identify what modern standards are capacity wise and what our current capacity was. It did also identify the 2017 costs of upgrading it to modern standards, which is significant. As far as flow metrics, I don't think we have that data easily on hand. You can go through and design everything due to pipe coefficiencies and everything and do flow monitoring, but that's not something any municipality typically monitors on storm sewers. They design it to a standard capacity and then it operates. And if it's not operating as it should, you start cammering and flushing to make sure that it's operating as it should. But monitoring flow matrix is not something many municipalities do on a storm sewer unless it's a pumped system, which ours is not. Ours is 100%.
Where our water goes, like where it fills up the stone house, or do we monitor how high that gets during a rainfall to see like if
We're called into situations visually we monitor it, yes. And I know from reports that the entire system from where it exited near Nettie's Way through to Enniskillen was at near top of bank the entire time. And it relieved, and that's why the village suddenly lost all of its water, because that top bank lowered, suddenly the water in the village could get out and it just went away nice and quickly. But it is an old school municipal drain. It is a ditch. So there is only so much capacity before it overflows into the fields. And once it starts overflowing the fields, the flow slows down and the village can't drain very fast. So no, we don't flow monitor that. The hydraulics of it are not easy to calculate based on that some of those sections of municipal drain may have been built 100 years ago. So, but we are working to fix our sections, and we will be working with our neighbors to see what can be done on their sections to ensure flow is occurring correctly.
Right.
That's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. Anything from you in the back, brother?
My name's Dale Brooks and this is my daughter Candace now. I don't live in Wyoming. I'm just I get the call when the basement floods, so maybe I can't speak or not. I don't. I am in the township.
Tell you what, Dad, you're allowed to speak.
So we're at 517 Zone Street and we're at the end, bottom of a hill. Six
Right on the corner of Toronto
and Zone.
and Zone.
Okay.
And the catch basin there now, the roadway itself, it would be great if it flowed down the road right to the highway, Broadway, but it doesn't. The road's higher, obviously. But
Little hill there too, and there.
yeah, you could, if you're farther up Zone, you know, it comes down to Toronto and that's the low spot, obviously, but the road is higher than the house.
Right.
And stuff. That catch basin, I mean, you flooded
In 2024.
2024, there was like 2 feet of water in the basement, so it just couldn't take it away, and so it just starts pouring in the front door. Everything, even the last rain here, we had 3 sump pumps running, 3 sump pumps.
Steady. Just kept up. It didn't empty.
Just kept up because the yard just fills with water. And then the catch basin, it just doesn't take it away. Like there's no debris. You can walk out there, there's no debris, but the water is just basically what you call it, static or whatever on top, not even swirling. Then eventually later on, it'll slowly start to swirl and then eventually it goes away. I mean, we're not telling anything nobody already has told, but you said like none of the other subdivisions really tie. So that shouldn't be an issue. But so what has changed in the last 5 years? Because they've been there 12 years and never had an issue. It would pour rain. And I mean, the catch basin, I don't think the water ever even come over the catch basin. It would take it away about as fast as it.
Yeah, Mr. Silva.
Through your worship, so that's a section of the Stonehouse drain. It goes down Zone Street.
Yeah.
We've actually flushed that twice over the last few
Yeah,
years.
and I was gonna say, I've seen, was it last year, the year before, when there
We
was.
flushed it last year, we flushed it in 2023.
Okay, there were back trucks there cleaning it, doing stuff. So yeah, I seen the trucks there doing it and I thought, okay, this will be good now. And I seen the drain all cleaned out. I mean, great job there. That looks nice and clear, but obviously there's problems further down, but.
You have such a challenging situation, and I don't know if you remember me, but I actually showed up at your.
So I think
Yeah.
you in 2024.
Yeah, and I went out there and I mean, your front door is below the level of the road.
Yeah, and so are the front windows.
Right?
So it's, yeah.
We're 3 feet.
I was just scratching my head
with
with,
the sides.
right, and you know, hindsight's 2020, but house shouldn't have been built so low, right?
No,
So, yeah, no, it's such a
you
challenging.
knew back in the day, I know it's now this rain, there was no water in the basement. It was right to the door. But it didn't come in, and then finally we thought, well, this is gonna definitely flood, and then all of a sudden the catch basin, you could see start to swirl. And then it started to drain away, then finally the 3 sump pumps kept up, but. And 2 of them we just put outside to the side yard with a pipe hose and that, but it's just enough to pump it out and just bring it right back in again. Like it just is pumping in a circle. Now you also said about coming out to check where sump pumps go. Obviously, you don't want them tied into the sanitary. How would you check something like that? Because I know the one sump pump is a line and goes outside. I'm assuming it goes to the storm sewer, but how can you tell for sure? Well, it goes out through the side of the house and that's all you see. You can't find it outside.
Mhm. Through your worship, the first step is looking like, so some pumps go onto the grass, which is great. Some are tied into a storm sewer,
I think,
which is okay.
I think one of these is tied to
Yeah.
a storm sewer. I don't believe it's tied to a sanitary sewer.
That's great. So there's, I mean, most people that are tied into a sanitary sewer, you can just draw a line between and you can see it. So it's, in most cases, it's kind of easy to see.
Just one
If it leaves the house, it's more challenging and we can do dye testing and
It
stuff.
leaves the house. Now the catch basin's down the road, so on a nice dry summer day, I said, we'll fill up the sump hole, let it start pumping. And if I can see water start to trickle into the catch basin, which isn't that far from the house, I'd say, well, yeah, this must be pumping it into the obviously pumping it into the storm sewer and not the sanitary, or unplug it and put your nose up against and say, oh, let's go to the sanitary sewer. It's, I just wonder. We don't want to make any more problems. Yeah, I mean, I've seen you guys clean it out and I've seen the back trucks there. But, and even if you call the emergency number
Yeah.
after a huge rainstorm, I mean, really, when they show up, what really can they do? By the time they call it, you can't get a vac, you can maybe get a vac truck in and unplug it, but you know what I mean? It's just, to me, it's, yeah, I see it's flooded. Yeah, we'll have to see what we can do. It's pouring rain and, but I was hoping you were gonna say, no, we found a collapse. We found a big plug in there.
We found some sediment, we removed it.
Okay, so yeah, it's still, so it must be further down somewhere that it's just can't take the water.
Mr. Sabansky?
And your house is at a bit of a challenging location.
Yeah.
So that's block is on the street from Broadway to where you live. 3 storm sewers that take almost virtually probably 2/3 of the water for the entire village, all congregate at that section. So if the outlet is up to the top of the bank, that water has nowhere to go.
It just, it can't get into it. Oh, I get that, yeah.
Regarding emergency services and maintenance, if given the opportunity, yes, pumping out pump stations is something we can do. Usually by the time you mobilize a pump, a vac truck.
The storm's done, the water's gone.
Cleaning catch basins is something we've done in the past before a storm. It sounds like specifically in the village, we got maybe caught in this one that we could have had staff out there cleaning, but sometimes we don't even know these stores are coming. They pop up, they're gone. So when an emergency comes in, maybe that's one thing we can be more mindful of is when we have these issues, send more staff, just have them start pulling these out of catch basins, just to give that little bit of extra help. That's definitely something we could do. And maybe something we're learning from this that would be better.
We never even had that issue. Like, I mean, the catch basin's perfectly clean on top. It's just wherever it is, the waters just cannot go. And eventually it will, and it'll go down fairly quick once it starts going. But maybe that drain back there is the water's finally come down and can let it go. But I know the neighbors, well, they've lived there like 60 years. They said they've never seen it like this other than the last 5 years. So I'm just wondering why all of a sudden in the last 5 years is this starting to happen? You know, it's
14 years. And I know there's debate about intensification and stuff like that. The intensity of storms have definitely increased. But there's also maintenance that needs to be done and improved. So we can't blame it fully on that. It's definitely contributing. But
supposedly there's supposed to be like a 5-foot storm sewer down the center of Zone Street. I don't know if that's true. The lady said, I got a picture of it 50 years ago when they put it in. I was standing inside it.
Haven't stood inside it, pop manholes and looked down into it. It's definitely there. But there's work to be done.
So I would think it's big enough, it should handle something, so. Probably I shouldn't take my flashlight and go in down where the Stonehouse drain is and walk all the way up under the highway. And
Not recommend that.
I wouldn't do it if it's gonna rain. I mean, it's dry.
I still don't recommend that. We don't want to be looking for a lost individual in our.
I know, but I just wondered that if there's something that's collapsed or something reason it slowed the water down.
The turtle.
Go shovel away.
Anyways, no. Anything else you want to say? It's just.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys a lot, for sure.
Adam, thank you for admitting that there is some maintenance that needs to be done.
There's always work that needs to be done. Every municipality struggles with it. We try our best. But it's always a matter of time, money. We want to maintain reasonable tax rates. We want to try to do our best to be responsible with your money. So we do our best with what we can have. And sometimes you just can't get caught up. And drainage is a tough one because the water gets here faster and faster. We can't build storm sewers big enough to handle these storms. So see the problem mostly in older neighborhoods where they're less conscious at where they put the houses, elevations and things like that. So you're seeing water in the roadways more often. In a newer neighborhood, it's not a big deal because the houses are notably above the roadways. In an old neighborhood, it's disastrous because the houses are sometimes lower than the roadways, as we heard here today. So we're slowly working at improving every street in Wyoming. Unfortunately, it's going to take time. I don't think anyone here wants to pay what it would cost in a short period of time to just upgrade everything at once. But we are working away at it. We have been for a decade now. And every year we spend a little more money on it, and every year we try to do more. And as long as council and the community is supportive of that, we will continue to improve this town and get rid of some of these issues as we go. It's just, unfortunately, it's hard to get rid of it all at once, and there's going to be pain along the way until we get there.
These new subdivisions that are being built again, they're gonna have their own independent, I'm sorry, I meant to ask that when I was
They
there.
absolutely should have their own independent stormwater sand system. The Radcliffe subdivision at the northeast of town, they were required to. We forced them to update their system to accommodate Ontario Street and a few other streets into it. And then we forced them to deviate that out around town, east and then south to the Parker Drain, so it does not contribute to any of this.
New one on Confed as well, will have the same system set up.
The one in Confed is going north, so it doesn't contribute to this system at all.
The new one that potentially is coming in south.
The new one on south, I'm on a roll, sorry. Paul. There's two
Maybe
new,
to jump in,
there are two new developments proposed in the south. Both of them are proposed to go south into the Parker Drain, which goes around this issue area into Inniskillen Township.
Wonderful.
Can you tell us, Paul, that good news?
All saving the voice.
Interrupt.
Anything you'd like to say?
No, I feel like I have opportunity to say, but I think the only thing is, like you've said, oh, you need us, we need to tell you. Well, that's what we're here doing. But I think we need to put it in perspective. We're actually trying to mitigate property damage in the moment. And then I did a quick check of, I know Facebook can't solve problems, but that's how some of us connected.
That's right.
And figured out, oh, like we got to be here on Wednesday to voice our concern. But when I checked the Facebook page for the town, like there wasn't a post on, these are the numbers that you can call to report your problems, right? So I think that's the only thing that I have to share, that if you want to know where the problems are, like please give us, you know, a easy way to communicate it to you. Like, and thank you to Councillor Rodriguez for actually making a post that we could respond to and get information.
Can I get your name?
Sorry, I'm Roxanne Gilroy Machado, and I live at 527 Neddy's Way.
Can I respond?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So I was on my, as we're talking about who do we call, I went on their webpage, did some scrolling. You can get to it, but you got to click a couple times. So what I'm going to talk to staff about, or at least our internet company, is at the very bottom of the page where it says contact information. We're going to put the emergency numbers there, so it's just scrolling down to the bottom. Didn't get the chance to call, obviously, because I'm with you right now. When I'm done here, I'm going to call our automated answering machine. There should be emergency numbers on there for both water, wastewater emergencies and road and general emergencies. If they're not there, they will be there within the next day or so. They were supposed to be there. They've always supposed to be there. Emergency response. It's hard to judge the scope of an issue, but it sounds like there's always room for improvement, and that's a discussion we'll have with operations.
I didn't have problems, sorry to interrupt you, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I didn't have problems finding a number to call. I got a hold of Al very quickly, and Al sent Greg out, which was great. But I guess the question is more, I think what you were maybe alluding to is, where do we, Facebook, we very quickly were able to accumulate all of our complaints together, or it's one spot to put in all of our issues that were going on and getting immediate responses from Kristen, from John. I mean, we had immediate responses very quickly, which was very much appreciated. So thank you for using social media for that. But where do we do that on a regular basis if we have a concern? I've emailed the office here and I haven't heard back for months. Yes, I'll forward to so-and-so. Yes, I'll forward to so-and-so.
That's not supposed to happen. You should have gotten a response fairly quick.
That's happened a number of times.
If that's to happen, please contact me.
I spoke personally a couple of times as well, but
with who to contact, we do have a Facebook page. Again, you don't know the scope of the situation until this one happened quickly and it resolved quickly. So a lot of damage was done in a short period of time, but it made it hard to organize everyone on it was Saturday or Sunday, sorry, to put those responses together on our Facebook page. The staff that are responsible for that are not in the office typically those days. But those, we can communicate through Facebook. Not all of us has access to the Wyoming community group. I think actually some staff who don't live in Wyoming try to get access, and because we don't live here, we're not permitted. And that's okay because it's a community group, right? The administration doesn't need to be part of that, but we're able to send messages through our Facebook page. So if that is one way to try, and we are hoping to get a communications person, a trial run here shortly. We're hoping to adjust things so that we have multiple people monitoring on the weekends, so that you have emergency numbers, you have emails, and you have Facebook or whatever social media we end up using over the next 6 months to try to get a hold of someone, at least for some answers. I think we probably need to do a bit of a information campaign where we hear that, you know, it needs to be easier for you to get a hold of us. And once in a while, especially if there's a threat of bad weather, here's our emergency numbers, call us. If you have concerns about water, sewer, please contact our director of public works, et cetera, et cetera.
But then what happened about that? Like Greg showed up, which was awesome.
Yep.
And he showed up in a really timely manner. I give him credit for that. It was great. But he showed up, walked around, and he kind of looked at us like, I don't know what to do either. Like, and that's not what he said by any means, but he kind of walked around too, kind of like, what does he do at that point? I don't know.
And in some situations, other than grabbing shovels and cleaning catch basins, there won't be much we can do.
Okay, that was,
As in a heavy rain,
I thought maybe he pulled the plug somewhere and eventually started going.
if it was that easy, that would be fabulous, but
Yeah.
it's realistically an event like that. It's going to be a matter of customer service. Yes, we can get out there and help clean those catch basins, but we can't make the water go away faster. If there was let's just say a beaver dam was causing it by the sewage treatment plant, we found that out, we would mobilize an excavator and get it done. If it's a big beaver dam, though, our little backhoe might not do it. So now we're calling in a contractor with an excavator, and that might be an hour and a half later. So
Tara and I had our own little party on the street when it started swirling, the drain started swirling really good.
our best. Sounds like we could always do better, and we will strive to do better.
Okay, we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Really going back to, you took Greg out of cleaning the barn out. There's also too, I think there was a list of places he had to go. You were,
I'm sure we were one of many.
but I did hear about it.
Yeah.
Okay, back row, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen over there, I do apologize, we're gonna get this moving, but you are.
I'm Brandy McKinley and I live on Nettie's Way as well. I just wanted to bring attention to the fact, like, our area, it's not water damage we're getting, it's raw sewage. So this is a real big health concern. Since 2020, we've had 2 major floods to the tune of $200,000 of damage. So we've been waiting 6 years now for a solution. We've done everything that's been asked. We put a backflow valve in. We've had it checked regularly. Our sump pump is working fine. There's no damage to it. It's working well. So we're at a point now, what do we do? In the meantime, while we're waiting for a solution, short of like selling our house, which really we couldn't do because nobody would buy it. So where does this leave us? I'm not an expert in the planning or the solutions, which are great. You know, I'm not what I'm an expert in is health. I'm a nurse. It is not safe for my family. We are out of insurance. So if it happened again, the very little amount of insurance we have wouldn't even clean up the bio waste in my house. Where does this leave us? Why are we still building in Wyoming? Is this just a coincidence that this started to happen when all these houses were being built?
So, I give Paul's voice a break here. Nettie's Way is a very specific and problematic situation. It's at the extreme lowest point of the town. It's right adjacent to the pump station. So the reason the pump station backs up and then Nettie Way receives sewage is not because the sanitary sewer system does not have the capacity to handle sewage. It's because stormwater is getting into it. So the program that Paul's talking about, where we're going into homes, making sure some pumps are disconnected. We've already done decammering, and there's probably other mitigating measures we can do. That will massively help that issue. If we can eliminate any stormwater from getting into Nettie's Way, you shouldn't see ever a backup. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, the only times you see backups is when when it's storming and raining. It's because that stormwater is finding its way somehow into that sanitary sewer, and we have to stop it. And the program that Paul proposed to the Water and Sewer Committee is a big step towards doing that. Sump pumps are a massive contributor to stormwater infiltration into sanitary sewers. And according to the videos that Paul did, it's probably our likeliest, our biggest, because we found no smoking gun in Wyoming. We found smoking guns in Kamlaki, where we're like, oh, this is bad. We didn't find that smoking gun, which leaves sump pump as your next likely source. So we have a plan. It will take time and it will take patience from the community because they will have to let us in and inspect, and we will have to work with you to rectify a problem that you may not even know you have, and it may not be your fault. But we have programs for that, and we will work with you to fix those problems. So we are working to fix it. It's just not something we can fix instantly because it's a community-wide issue.
Okay, I said one thing. Why didn't it happen the first 8 years we were there? Don't say we just have, the storms the last 6 years have been stronger. They're not. We all grew up in the area.
Problems the first 8 years.
First 8 years, not a drop in our basement.
We've noticed a significant increase of inflow over the last 8 years. So why that is, we're still looking to determine. It's that infiltration that's causing it.
Because Saturday I drove around with, well, everybody knows him, Jack, my neighbor. We went out to the pump house, we went everywhere. We were trying to, the ditch was full.
Yep.
And he had a lot more water than we did. Unfortunately, they had an issue. The next house had an issue. It, like I said, is the point. You can't sell it. You can't, insurance won't give us a dime anymore just to clean things up. Will it ever be fixed? That's all I want to know.
It has to be.
Well, yeah. Don't take this the wrong way. You told me that 6 years ago, and we're still here today.
And I started the I&I program, tinkering away over it over time, putting in small measures. Paul's taken over that program, and Paul's got.
Honestly, I don't care about Kamlaki. I really don't. I care about Wyoming. And honestly, everybody that's in here, they're going through the same issues. Sorry, Nettie. Might have changed the name of your street.
Not making light of this, but could we change the name of that street?
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Kelly.
May I just add to this for just a moment? Just, you're saying that your storm system and your sanitary system are potentially merging out of people's homes or at catch basin points or wherever you're finding them. During the home building process, being that I've framed houses for 8 years, when most of these sump pumps and things are ejected through the wall and they're tied into the storm system, there's an inspection purpose. You have to get your backfill, all that stuff has to be inspected before you backfill your foundation. Is someone from this town, building inspector, whatever, are they verifying at the time of construction that these are not going into the sanitary system? Or are they just seeing, oh yeah, there's a pipe through the wall, not tracing it to the end, right? Are they just looking at, oh yeah, it comes through the wall, yeah, that's sealed properly, yeah, we're good to go? Is it a building inspector issue that is allowing things to get in here to causing sewage issues? Because that's brutal, right? If it happens to be something as simple as that, right? Sorry to hijack you, but it's okay.
So, Your Worship, I can confirm that with the building inspector, but my understanding is yes, that is, the building inspector does confirm that the sanitary is tied in the correct location and the storm sewer is tied in to the correct location. But I will verify that with them.
If they are properly connected at the home and you're not finding anything in your cameras that flag a major problem, somebody is switching something after inspection potentially or whatever, right? Like, unfortunately, there are unscrupulous people out there that will move stuff around, right? So you got to be a little more diligent potentially on your inspection side of things in the building phase.
Brian, you had your hand up first, then I'm going to this gentleman.
So some pumps, should they only be going to the backyard, or like where should they drain to if you're disconnecting them from the sewer?
Go ahead.
So through Your Worship, in the absence of having a dedicated storm service, my answer to that is always anywhere but your basement. So backyard, front yard, get it out of your house. If you have a storm service, that is most likely the best place for that sump pump to discharge to. And there's a good way and a better way to do that. And I'm happy to have that conversation with anybody that wants more information on that. Cause like I said, if you're connecting at 5 feet under the ground, and you have a surcharge storm sewer, it's adding a little bit of head pressure. If your sump pump is losing efficiency, or we can tackle it.
Sir, you had a question on this issue?
Yes.
We'll get a chance to speak out.
Just a comment on as to why things maybe have changed in the past dozen years. Have we looked at as, I think there's more fields that are being drained to the ditches. A quick AI search said 45% of fields were tiled in, say, in the 90s. Mid-2000s, say 2010, 2020, is as high as 85%. So these ditches getting much more demand on it. Is there funds from the agriculture sector that says, hey, maybe we're solving one problem, right, with the farmers' fields having some drainage? Is there funds available for the upstream municipalities that are suffering the consequences?
Yeah, there's no funds currently through OMAFRA offset agricultural drainage for upstream residential or otherwise. The only grants provided by OMAFRA are grants to agricultural properties that pay a third of their drainage assessments. And there is loan programs for tiling the fields. But OMAFRA is very concentrated on agricultural production. It's not necessarily concentrated on drainage for the municipal area.
Can I just make a comment too on that? John, you said your neighbor was out raking the ditch because of the corn stubble that was in it. Does that have anything to do with it? Because that would potentially slow down and block up the flow of water. I don't know if it's even tied in at all, but is that a potential consideration?
Well, it's certainly, Mr. Mayor, through you, it's certainly tied into the overall infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's towards the lake, obviously. So does that residue and debris slow things down? It certainly has that potential to do so.
We actually did clean one ditch out near London Line that was full of corn stalks. We had to get a high hoe in to clean that out. Well, some of the farmers' debris is getting into the ditches and beating them.
We're aware of that being a problem on the Stonehouse though, in this circumstances.
Okay, we want to keep this moving. Mr. Damon, you're next. You had a question? You got 5 minutes, Randy.
5 minutes.
I'm holding you to that, Randy.
Little deja vu, just about a year ago, just the other day, I was in Atlanta coming home and my basement filled up with sewage, so I sympathize. I've been dealing with water issues for 30 years in Kamlaki. I live on Lake Shore. My name is Randy Damon, as the mayor indicated. I want to thank the council first for their due diligence. I know it's all awful frustrating for us, but I especially want to thank Paul De Silva and Ryan Tammick. Because Paul and I determined an infrastructure problem in Kamlaki last year, and Paul took care of that. I haven't seen the flow charts in the last to this last rain. From my experience, I'd like to just explain on a sewage system, because I was a sewage operator manager. I had all my certifications. A sewage system is designed to handle the flow of the houses and the infrastructure on it. In no uncertain terms, nobody can argue with me that a sewage system should back up at any point in time, unless there's a major pump failure or a line breakage or cave-in or something like that. If your system is running all through the summer, your sewage system, and we get a major rain, there should be no difference when. But what we have in Plympton-Wyoming here, I don't know specifically on Nettie's Way, but when I campaigned for council last year, I talked to a lot of people on that street. The infrastructure there is fine from my point of view. And the infrastructure in Kamlaki is fine for the number of houses we have on it. But we know for a fact that there's intrusion in water in Kamlaki. Now, Paul and I fixed the catch basins on the county road that was flooding the catch basins and overran the sewage system last year. That's part of the problem. The flow meters will probably tell us when you see that extra flow goes up when it rains, that immediately is a red flag that water's coming in. So either your house or your neighbor's house or the houses down the street, somebody has to address that. And Paul's putting a program which you shouldn't really have to do, because in 95, we put the sewers in Plympton Township. We all signed a legal document stating that we were not allowed to put any stormwater into the sanitary sewer. And now I hear arguments out in my area in Kamlaki, while people are concerned about plumbers coming in and looking at their basements. If they're violating the law, they're violating the law, in my opinion. So I commend Paul and Ryan Tamming for moving ahead. We still have water issues out in Kamlaki, some blockages that the council's working with me and Paul and to resolve, get some stormwater. Stormwater is a major issue. So thank you, council, for your due diligence. I see you, Paul.
Thank you, Randy. Sir? I'm sorry. Nothing? Mr. Moore, anything from you?
No.
Pretty comfy.
Those stairs are nice, eh?
All right,
Paul, how long have you worked for the town, or how long have you been?
Just over 2 years.
Okay, so we're finally seeing movement, so thank you, because we did not prior to this.
Yeah.
I have made many calls and it just kind of seemed to fall on deaf ears. So I'm finally seeing and hearing that there are things happening and movement happening, so thank you.
Especially due to Paul's due diligence.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
all right, council, I'm gonna go to you quickly because we have a full agenda after. We'll let these people go, but Councillor Bojan, you're first.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I do have a question in this. Because it's already been said that, you know, whether it's a significant rain event or not, one thing that's clear for a lot of municipalities is it can't be the scapegoat anymore because it's just the reality of what's happening now. And it's spring and more rain's coming. So just to summarize here for my own sake, so we've identified the potential longer term solutions, that the pond idea and redirecting water from the system. That's great. I think that's productive. We've identified the shorter term solutions of getting cameras into those storm systems in those identified problem areas and tendering out some cleanouts if that's needed. That's great. Can we also identify a super short-term solution that it was suggested by the public that there might be some inlet areas or catch basins that have some problems, and they're letting us know right now that there's some problem ones. So I'll just be more specific. Can we ensure that we at least get eyes on those identified catch basins as soon as possible? And then, you know, if there's a quick clean out option in something that we can just take care of it, can we just make sure we do that? Super short.
Through your worship, sorry, I am definitely losing my voice. So it's kind of a two-pronged solution here. The catch basins that are in the road, we actually street sweep twice a year. So they get picked up during that process, one time in the spring, one time in the fall. We try to kind of time that. And you know, when people are cleaning up their yards, leaves are getting into the road. So we time it so that, you know, we can get the best bang for our buck. The other thing is all the catch basins that are off the road, that's a lot more challenging. So yeah, we'll have to go around and identify those. And I'm not saying that this is your responsibility, but any help could be appreciated. If you can find them, clear them off for us, at least temporarily. When you're doing your gardening and you're cleaning up the leaves, please take out, I'm not saying it's your job. I'm just saying, can you please help us out? And we'll do our best to do the same.
Councillor Bojan?
Yeah, again, there's one final follow-up, and then if there is one that looks like if you just remove the grate, that you can probably get some stuff out. If we know of ones like that because they're telling us tonight, or they're gonna call tomorrow because they're listening, can we just get eyes on them? And if we can lift it and pull something out, we can just do it.
Yes, for sure.
And then lastly, then I'll be quiet. I think it's important too that like we're not municipality facing this issue, but I am proud that we're having a meeting like this with back and forth that's respectful. And it sounds cheesy, but that doesn't happen everywhere. So it's just part of who we are as a community. So I do appreciate everyone here, and sorry to say, I appreciate Paul and our staff. But thank you for coming, and those who are, I know there's lots of watching, so thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Vacy?
Yes, my comments just on the phone call and the emergency call out and whatnot. Your new work order system. So when you call in, correct me if I'm wrong, the system will create a work order. It will get streamed all the way through the system, and at the end, you get an email saying it's complete. No, that's the new one.
Oh, the new.
It's the new one.
That's I got a person on the line. It was really great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and like you say, you get it here, the sticky note, and it gets stuck over to whoever's. and it goes away. Now it's tracked. Like, what did we spend on this? It was like $100,000. If I'm not, it's in the budget. And, but for that reason, because again, Paul, we're getting to the point where we're a municipality big enough. I think it's funny that municipality, you know, Al and you know, Greg, oh, and Greg come out and then, come on, like we know everybody.
Gary and I traveled to Toronto together, how many, 20 years ago? Way back.
It'll track all that, and then eventually, when it's done, you get an email saying your catch basin is done. And it could be something as simple as a catch basin to something very major, but we now have a tracking system for that, just for this kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to it, actually. It's just like in the plants, right?
It's just a record of what's been taken, what's taken place.
Transparency, yeah.
So Al gets a call, it goes on his iPad or whatever it is he's got at his end. And then it gets sent to Greg. Greg sends back, went out and looked at it. Holy crap, there's a whole lot of water here. Nothing I can do today. Boom, Monday they go back, gets fixed, gets cleaned, got shoveled out, cleaned out, found debris. And then
I think that's the follow-up part is like, we saw Greg, he came in a really great time. I hollered at my house, thanks Greg for coming down so quick, right? But from then I was like, I don't know what happened. Where did Greg go? I don't know.
Well, and that's.
Maybe back to the barn, hopefully not.
Should have fed him.
Give him some.
And I did see it, because I can see it out my back window.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
See, you're a little late. And he eventually went somewhere, so we know the drain's working. Right, but so a quick, sometime this week, get a couple shovels and because you're not gonna get a truck down there. Because it's, on my end, it's blocked, you can't get in my end at all, so.
And from the east end, it's wide open.
Yeah, it's wide open on our end too, right beside Mark.
But you're not gonna get down there until it's dry and clear, he's gonna, I drove one of those trucks, or unless you hand bomb it all the way down, maybe over Neville's fence or through the fence kind of thing, but
You're gonna have 100 feet.
not that big a deal to shovel it out either, so it's.
Putting beige back here.
Hire some summer students.
That's all, like I say, I think the work order is gonna, the transparency and all that stuff that we talked about will go away, cause I called Thursday and he'll be able to look it up and say, yes, you did. And it was in the system and Greg went out and they ordered a part and it's gonna be in tomorrow. That kind of thing, so it's.
That was the number one thing social media was asking for is transparency. Like, just tell us what's going on.
And a lot of times we don't know what's going on. You know, to be honest with you, I like looking at the lake and Sue's reading the posts that everybody's, you know, in an uproar, but the guys on the ground, well, yeah, it's flooded. I can try and clear it, poke it, hopefully it goes away, but.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, and you're up.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah. So definitely, I think where, for me, the shortfall was on this too, was getting a post out there on the town's website. We could have done better with. So I hope we do more of that in the future, be proactive. Nettie's Way in particular, I think I've heard about Nettie's Way. It's my first term on council, but I think not so much about Nettie's Way. I don't know why, like, I wish it could get priority in whatever's going on, so maybe that's something that can be talked about. When it does come to us. And then like the both Councillor Bojan has stated as well. Getting that when somebody does call and they need some help. Not waiting for it to get tendered out. If there's something immediate we can do. Let's do it. And how much does a vac truck cost? Can we just buy one? Like.
Sorry. I actually have to go back to work where I used to. With that. All yours, Tom.
Yes, one voted back in. No.
Not when you get your tax bill.
Bye, Tom.
Bye. Thank you, Adam. They are multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. They are.
And one final thing was on the, I'm a little bit thrown off on the McKay Park thing. I thought we kind of agreed during those drainage meetings that there would be some drainage, catch bases put in McKay Park, but it didn't sound like you were committed. Meant to the,
Definitely committed.
They're committed.
you are committed.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they do, see where,
Welcome.
see where the grades are. Hey, Deputy, anything for you?
Oh, they've got it pretty well covered and I won't waste any more time repeating it, so
Okay.
thanks, Bill, but I just hope it gets done fast, that's.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Nettie. We had an amazing discussion, maybe the best since I've been on council. This has been so genuine and honest and respectful. And the one thing I love about it the best is it was not just complaint driven. It was, here's some solutions. Here's what I experienced. Here's what you try. Consider this. Those are the best. We've done enough talking. Let's go to work.
Thank you. Councilor Wilbert?
It has been an interesting discussion. It's not the first time we've had the discussion. Especially over at Nettie's Way, we've had problems. We had a discussion just at the last environmental committee about water infiltration into the sewage system. And I'm not telling you anything that isn't public knowledge. You can go have a look at our minutes. And we look at those graphs and then and these high rain events and these that are pumping stations, you can just see it shoot up during them rain events. I mean, way up. So this is how we've determined we're getting all this water infiltration into the sewage system. And that's why a program has been put together, presented to council to get out there and go into every house and have a look and see where this stuff is connecting to. Because I think Randy stated there should be no change in the sewer flows if you get a heavy rain. Should be no change. It's a separate, totally separate system. So there, first of all, in my opinion, is a big thing to address as quick as possible. And we're doing that. It's being set up as we speak. The bylaws are being passed as we speak. The gentleman over in the corner over there raised an issue about farm drainage. It is a big issue, and you know, they used to drain farms every 50 feet. Now they're draining the farms every 20 feet. And they all go into these same ditches and drains that we're trying to get out of with our stormwater sewer systems. Now these rains, and no doubt in my mind, I drove around, I seen it all, we're just overwhelmed. It happened so fast, we're down the bass, those ditches, that Stonehouse drain was right up to the top. I've seen it worse because I think it was 23 or 24. We had that big rain. The Wyoming Baptist Church was so flooded, the parking lots, it was coming right in the doors of the church because that Stonehouse drain had flowed. This time it got up, but it didn't blow its banks and flood all that area. And I mentioned sump pumps and catch basins. I'm going to mention that again because they have got to be kept clean and cleaned out and backwashed or whatever they got to do. I've seen this so many times in my own street, which we don't have a problem with flooding, but plug catch basin, it overflowed down the hill, took all the asphalt out, thousands of dollars worth of damage just because of a plug catch basin. So it's extremely important we check them all. Once again, thanks for coming here because I have seen so much on Facebook in the last couple of days, and I'm not talking about this community, but in our neighboring communities and the bad mouthing that's going on towards councils. We're just like you guys. We just got houses too that are flooding, right? We just want to solve the issue, not, you know, dumb councillors and this and that. They don't, that doesn't solve anything. This is what solves it right here. So we've got a heck of a list here of what to do, and it needs to get done, and it is getting done. And we spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on drainage, trying to get the drainage. So let's hope we can do something with this before it happens again. And by the way, it will happen again. I mean, it's just, well, it's supposed to rain tomorrow, and let's hope. Anyway, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you, council. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. I appreciate you sitting through the meeting to get where we're at tonight. And I won't repeat what all our councils have said, but I do appreciate the professionalism and the calmness as you present your issues. They're all important to us. And I think we've opened the doors of communication here, and we'd like to continue that. So I would, again, thank each and every one of you. And just to be clear, I did take Kelly to Toronto and I brought her home. Fair ambassador for the PNW Agriculture Society over 20 years ago, so,
Time ago,
yeah.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
maybe 25.
Believe it. Thank you, folks. Council, we're going to take a 5-minute personal break and allow our residents to exit. And again, thank you, everybody, for.
Can you reiterate the next meeting with regards to the drainage and the water? Is that April 22nd, did you say?
Right. Your worship, it's not a drainage meeting per se. It's just when I'm bringing my report regarding the I&I program for council's approval.
Okay.
That's what
So it'll
that,
be more specific detail.
it'll be it'll be discussed and potentially approved by council at the end of the month.
That'll be April 29th is the next council.
April 29th, okay.
Paul, can we get your contact information? You had touched it.
Well, I will go get a bunch of cards.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thanks for your time, everybody.
right, Bo, let's take us live.
Personally.
Go, Gary.
I was nervous
Well,
as shit, not
everyone.
Sorry. I have a motion by Councillor Basie, seconded by Councillor Bolden, that council move into an in-camera meeting of council pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended for the following reasons. Item A, litigation matters. Section 239 bracket 2 bracket E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Item B, personal matters, section 239 bracket 2 bracket B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. All those in favor? It's carried. For those that are joining with us virtually, thank you for being with us this evening. We're now going in camera, and upon our return, we'll be going back out and closing down for the evening. Thank you again.
2 questions.